Good evening, everyone. You're most welcome for the first alumni Zoom meeting. I'm so excited to see you all here. We are working from last 1 week to gather you all here. It's so excited.
You should say, Banu, all my bachas, they all were after you to get the library work done.
If I say like that, I become so old. So that's the reason I don't want to say like that.
Hi, Biju, long time see no.
True, Dr. I'm close to everyone because I'm a librarian, so I'm helping everyone when they are here as a fellow, and still I'm communicating with them, still I'm helping them, so I have quite good bond with them. So I'm so excited here to see you all.
Very good.
Good.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening.
Hello, Dr. Rao. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Rao. Good evening, TV.
Good evening, Mahesh.
Oh, good evening to all of you.
Oh,
Good evening, Virender.
Mahesh, I couldn't recognize you.
You don't know my hair.
You did not pay royalty to me. That's the problem. That's the problem. He copied without giving a royalty. Not good.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Vinay, no problem.
No, he mute. Okay.
Yeah, I don't have an ability, but good afternoon, good morning, everybody. I sorry I didn't have the ability to unmute myself. We are at the disposal of Praveen.
I think
Oh, okay.
And Cornea, as usual, gets the first preference. So Mahesh got unmuted before me.
Yeah.
Glaucoma gets the last one that just got unmuted. Good evening, everybody.
The cornea first.
So right
Has to travel the cornea first.
right prioritization.
Yeah. Good evening, Dr. Rao. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Good evening.
So, Dr. Sangwan.
Armoina, glaucoma dragged some of the admin rights. Actually, I unmuted you and Vinay.
Oh, great.
So, hello, Prashant. How is UAE?
Holding on, Doc. Holding on.
Okay.
It's kind of tough times with the corona, with the COVID-19 right now. But yeah, I think it's the same across the world.
Hello, hello, General Saab, Rehan.
No, he Lieutenant General.
Yeah, they are called generals. They are called generals when they are lieutenant generals.
But he's an Air Force guy. He cannot be called Lieutenant General. I don't know what they will call. I do not know. Rehan, can you tell us what will you be when you become the chair of army in India?
You don't know? Come on. So that means you were never in NCC in your life.
I was NCC, a good guy in NCC in my college days.
So then you should know everything in Navy, in Air Force, in Army.
Army I know, Air Force and Navy I do not know. Army I know. My mama was in Army, so I know also. Hi, Devinder.
Arman started his class. Arman,
Can we start?
Yes, Dr. Sangwan. You're up first, Dr. Sangwan.
Says Nazimul, but I see Anjali.
Yeah, hiding behind.
Nazimul is earning money.
Good one. Like all of us do, no? For our family.
Yes, yes.
Is Savitri there?
She's coming from hospital. Doesn't do it. I just come back and she's coming.
So that's why you made that statement.
Dr. Rao ne choda aapko TV.
Yeah.
Hello, Veer. How are you? Welcome.
You. All right, 7 o'clock, Praveen?
Yes, Dr. Sangwan is the lead.
Good evening, friends. And if I would like, if I can get your attention, and we'll get going with the formal program. It's my proud privilege to welcome you all for this first virtual alumni meeting coming out of this unprecedented times of COVID. This pandemic has taught us the interdependent and community living, the values we learned, imbibed during our fellowship, now increasingly increase our belief that they are real, timeless, and because of those values we could survive this very difficult time, and we are fortunate that we are able to serve our fellow human beings. I don't know how many of you know, but during this pandemic time, LVP again has shown the world how to take care of the staff and the patient, and how to innovate during these difficult times. It's really exemplary, and it is, all of us very feel gratitude to our Guru of Gurus, Dr. J.N. Rao, who has, given us a dream that we can live for the rest of our life. And I certainly feel very privileged to be part of such a distinguished group, and a whole life vocation I have picked up, and will continue to deliver whatever I think is relevant in my region. So wish you all the best and welcome to this meeting. At least we are able to see each other, if not physically. And now I hand over the proceedings to Praveen and Mal.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sangwan, for the opening remarks. And like you said, I think the connect with the mothership continues. And what you said really exemplifies that. And thank you for standing along with LVPEI even now. So with that, we'd like to start this amazing program. We have a very tight schedule today, and we also have some very interesting discussions where we're going to feature some of our alumni who have not been part of our regular alumni meetings by utilizing this virtual platform. And I think we have a very exciting panel discussion along with a few presentations. And to end this all, we have a very interesting skit that is put together by our alumni called The Life of a Fellow in LVP. I'm sure a lot of you will relate to that as well. During the sessions, you'll also have Banu, our librarian, and Vidula, our alumni relations officer, who will be sharing a quiz of trivia about places and people that you probably remember from 20 years ago. But before we start all that, as LVP stands, we'd like to welcome Dr. G.N. Rao to address the 2020 LVP ophthalmology meeting to start with, and then we will proceed from there on. Dr. Rao, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Praveen. Sharing the screen. Okay. LV Prasad Eye Institute has had a glorious journey of 35 years. From 1986 to 2020. From the groundbreaking on October 17th, 1986, to the Greenberg Outstanding Prize in the year 2020. I believe we have achieved what all we have achieved during the past 35 years because we have pursued the road not taken, the Robert Frost poem. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And indeed, in our case, that has made all the difference. We're always very proud of the contributions of our alumni. And in this journey of 35 years, their contribution has always been outstanding in multiple ways. Today, our alumni network spans the entire world, both the developing and the developed parts of the world. Many of them have become ophthalmic leaders in their own communities and countries. Many of them have become educators, contributing to the education of the future generations of eye care professionals. Many of them are pursuing research, adding to the knowledge base and coming up with the new techniques and technologies. And of course, many of them have become outstanding clinicians, with some of them are pursuing the route of clinician scientist. They have together raised the standard of eye care in all respects in their communities. They become role models. They helped in promoting education and research, helped significantly in institution building in different parts of the country and around the world. And they have promoted a true culture of care, a caring attitude. Numerous individuals among the alumni have achieved numerous accolades from all over the world. And to all of them, our congratulations. And with all these different ways, they have impacted the lives of millions of people around the world. At LV Prasad Eye Institute, the new thing that happened with the alumni is the Alumni Chair of Ophthalmology, an idea that generated at the time of our Silver Jubilee anniversary that now culminated in the appointment of Dr. Muhammad Javed Ali as the first ever Alumni Chair of Ophthalmology. Javed is a very distinguished clinician scientist with outstanding credentials, and he bagged too many honors to mention and fully deserves this appointment. Coming to the genesis of our institute, initial decision of mine to return, then the formation of a not-for-profit foundation in America, Indo-American Eye Care Society, granting of land at a concessional price from the Andhra Pradesh government, that is our Kismatpur campus of today, and then meeting the Prasad family, then returning from the US, the groundbreaking, construction, etc. So these were the initial steps. And the institute was founded on two foundational values: excellence with equity, reconciling excellence with equity. In patient care, education, research were the main pillars in the initial years, with rehabilitation added a couple of years later to make it an organization under one umbrella where every aspect of eye care is available and makes it a truly comprehensive eye care organization. We have done many things on the road not taken. At that time, the focus was for most people, most ophthalmologists and institutions, was cataract. But we have pursued the route of comprehensive eye care. We have also pursued another road not taken until then. We were in fact the first ones to start implanting intraocular lenses in our non-paying patients when the cost of intraocular lenses was considered prohibitive because there were no Indian manufactured intraocular lenses. We created somewhat different systems in everything that we did, including different types of nomenclature for our various cadres of our colleagues in our institute to add dignity and respect to their positions in the institute. All that led to this pyramidal structure of eye care delivery, that is now being replicated across the world. A model that makes care available from simple screening to the management of complex diseases to everyone, irrespective of their ability to pay. We also believe in the philosophies that simply because someone is poor, he or she should not be treated poorly. And with that philosophy, we have been successful over the past 35 years. The LVP network extends predominantly in 3 states, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Odisha, with a little presence in Karnataka. About 200 primary care vision centers, 21 secondary centers, 3 tertiary, with 5 urban city centers. Together, 228 locations we are now working out of. Every single day, we touch 5,000 to 6,000 people through these centers. Outside of this, through screening programs, we touch another 2,000 to 3,000 people each day. And functionally, we have evolved into these 10 functional segments. And each of them is critical. And I have deliberately used this particular representation, the very similar to corneal endothelium. The interdigitation between these 10 functional segments is as critical as the interdigitation of the endothelial cells for the function of the cornea. This interdigitation of these areas is very critical to the functioning, overall functioning of LVP and its growth. So these are the 10 functional. In each of these, innovation has been part of the DNA. Patient care, in community and rural eye health, our rural eye care delivery models. In rehabilitation, that is appropriate for countries like India. And in eye care institutions. Eye banking, again, very innovative models that we have created. And that led us to becoming the leadership position in the field of eye banking around the world. Technology innovation, which was initiated by Virender Sangwan and prospering and continuing to do well. Education, always on the move. And during the period of pandemic, under the leadership of Avinash Patanga, it has just exploded. Several new innovations happened. Research again continues to proliferate. Just this past year, under new director Sayan Basu, we had an excellent track record with our faculty using their time away from workplace very profitably by publishing a record number of peer-reviewed papers. In capacity building, we helped multiple organizations, both within India and around the world. And of course, we are fast acclimatized to technology in clinical care, in education, and in many other areas. In all these, innovation has been the underlying factor. Our linkages extend to every part of the world, covering all these functional areas. So through all this, we have created an integrated model of universal eye health that provides comprehensive care with commitment to quality, taking as much care as possible closer to the doorstep of the people who need it most, with continuity of care in those locations, with permanent facilities and well-trained human resources, combined with our trademark of compassion, with strong community participation. This is the scorecard over the past 35 years in every aspect of these functional areas, with more than 50% of our services provided at no cost to the people who received them, regardless of the complexity of the problem. Looking into the future, the 2 strategic pillars of the next 25 are the creation of institutes of excellence in niche areas that will evolve into global resource centers for that area, and the focus on robust, high quality primary eye care in the 3 states that we are currently present, covering a population of 150 million people. We've been going through the leadership succession process. It should have happened actually 4 or 5 months ago, but for the COVID interruption. And this is going to be completed now by the end of September this year. So you can look forward to having a very dynamic next leader of LV Prasadai Institute, who will continue to take the institute to greater heights. The aim remains that to remain relevant to the efforts in controlling blindness and vision impairment globally, so that all may see. Again, for all the alumni, I'd like to place on record our sincere thanks for your contributions, and through that, making our institute proud. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rao, for that overview of the journey of LVP, and also for laying out what lies ahead for all of us in LVP and for all of us who are closely associated with LVPI. To actually set the tone, I'd like to invite Banu and Srinivas to share your trivia, and then we will move on to the next segment of this amazing meeting. So what Banu will do and Srinivas will do is actually show you some pictures that all of you have the opportunity to poll and actually vote for. So here comes.
Could you please identify the person in this picture?
Dr. Subhadra.
My friends, all alumni.
Dr. Subhadra.
Oh, who is that person?
Oh, I'm taking poll.
Oh.
Subhadra herself. Now Subhadra looks like Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh.
Could you please identify this place, this corridor? It's a famous corridor.
This is where the
In
innovation center is now.
Who is that person?
Dr.
Who is
Sangwan.
replying this? Oh, Dr. Sangwan. Yeah. Srinivas, could you please show that picture? Yes. See it.
Yeah, we'll probably move on, because I think we've also already had the questions answered by very enthusiastic participants. So we did have chance to actually have the poll run to see how many people get it right. So I think we would like to go on to the next segment, which is one of the most exciting all of us are looking forward to. And for that, I'm going to invite Dr. Tara Prasad Das to moderate and to chair and mentor the next session. What Dr. TPD is going to do is he is going to take you through the journey of some of the alumni who probably have not been to most of our annual alumni meetings so far. So Dr. Das, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Praveen. I have this most pleasant thing that I will do in this new year 2021. I never thought that I would be doing this though. Praveen picked up these 3 amazing guys, Harmoina Baga, Mahesh Shankar, and Vinay Shah. When I'm talking to all of them almost a week, 10 days ago, one's in video and others in audio, I realized that I am talking to them 20 saal ke baad. Then I had opportunity to look at that 20 saal ke baad movie, 1962 movie, and I want to pick up some dialogues or some music, but no, it did not fit to what I will describe Mona or Mahesh or Vinay. But then for sake of repetition, I will repeat what has been Praveen talking. Dr. Rao just now spoke that Robert Frost poem. Now, I don't know how many of you know that Robert Frost's poem, this poem was published actually in England, not in US, even though he's American. He and his friend once were walking on the road as their morning walk, and actually they met a point where the road is diverging, and they took two different directions. The guy who took a different direction ultimately joined army and repented that he should have taken the other direction. So that is how Robert Frost wrote this poem, that two roads diverge in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. And I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So these three guys have the traveled one less traveled by, and they have made the difference. Even what Hermina sent to me, her last paragraph, last sentence is only talk about that. So could I invite now in that order, Mona, Mahesh, and Vinay to introduce yourself with the way you want to introduce? Up to you. Hermoine, are you starting there? Yeah. Okay. Unmuted now.
Okay. So my name, for those who don't know me, and I'm sure there's a lot of them because I left LVP about 20 years ago. So my name is Hermohina, and I'm currently based in California. I'm in private practice here in San Jose. And yeah, I mean, I've been through so many schools in my life. I've spent 17 years just training, but LVP is my mothership, and it's so amazing to be back here. Virtually, of course, this year, but this just motivates me to be there physically going forward.
Okay, is it now Mahesh or what?
Yeah, I think I can. I'm Sankara Mahesh. I hail from Trivandrum in Kerala. I did my fellowship at LVP in 2000, 2001, and I did my med school prior in Trivandrum, and then did a residency in Pandi Institute before I came to LVP. I have not been in touch, and I abashedly say that I had lost my way in the connection to the mothership. So I really thank Praveen, Dr. Das, and all the other organizers in making this happen. Currently, I am in cornea and anterior segment service at the Westchester Medical Center, New York, which is part of the New York Medical College. I do work in an academic institution, and I fill multiple roles. I am a clinician, researcher, and also I'm the program director of the ophthalmology residency program here. Again, I'm really happy to see a lot of my friends, my distinguished teachers, and also a lot of my younger colleagues who I haven't seen for a long time. Again, I'm really grateful to be back, and I want to continue the relationship which I've been missing for the last 20 years.
Thank you, Mahesh. The slides were a little mixed up. We saw Vinay, young Vinay, and doesn't matter.
Probably the oldest, but I'll take the young compliment. Thank you, sir. Thank you all, and it's amazing to see everybody. Thank you, Dr. Rao, Dr. Das, Dr. GC, Praveen, my colleagues, Dr. Sangwan, and a lot of my teachers for extending this opportunity. It's truly an honor and pleasure and a privilege to be here. My name is Vinay Shah. I did my medical school and ophthalmology residency in Ahmedabad. I did my retina fellowship at LVP between 2000 and 2001. Currently, I'm at the Dean McGee Eye Institute and University of Oklahoma. I've been there since 2011. I am a clinical professor, retina fellowship director, and an endowed chair. I run a busy surgical retina practice, teach residents, fellows, participate mostly in clinical and some translational research. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Kanan, and two daughters, Simran and Simone. They are teenagers. I also run a smartphone application company. Some of you may have used my application, actually, iHandbook. I'm really excited, actually, to learn and participate in this amazing conference, The Road Not Taken. So thank you for the opportunity. We'll use these slides later.
Okay. 1931, James Adams wrote a beautiful beautiful book and becomes a movie ultimately called Epic of America. When I first time visited America, Voice of America was the one TV channel which was very popular, and the first one that I saw I can never forget, a fluttering U.S. flag and written down that we do not survive, we excel, and that's what LVPI is. That we don't just survive, we excel. In that book of James Adams, he talk about the American dream. That American dream is the belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what else they were born into, can attain their own version of success in a society where upward mobility is possible for everyone. The American dream is not achieved by chance. All guy did not achieve what they'll achieve by chance, but achieved through a lot of sacrifice, risk-taking ability, and the hard work. Okay, guys, tell me, how did you realize your dreams of America? This will be in order of Mahesh, Vinay, then Harmoina.
Can I have that slide, please? So one of the reasons that you don't see people taking this road is because it takes longer to achieve your goals than the traditional path. Pursuing this road of practicing medicine in a different country will set the clock back by 5+ years or so, as you can rightly see. Can I get that slide back? I think that would be helpful. The one you just showed. So regardless, I'll go ahead and talk. So you usually, when you take this path, you're spending more than 5+ years away from seeing patients, building a research portfolio so that you can successfully match in the ophthalmology cycle. To practice in US, obviously you need to have an internal medicine 1-year residency plus following a ophthalmology residency and maybe a fellowship to successfully practice. In my case, I started after my LVP days. I did a research fellowship at NEI in ocular immunology and autoimmune disease of the eye for 6 years. I worked as a scientist in a biotech firm trying to design to lead a topical kinase inhibitor for macular degeneration away from my cornea fellowship. Then I had to pursue an internship and then a residency in GW, and followed by another fellowship in Wills Eye. So in total, I took almost 10-11 years since my fellowship at LVPEI to get to where I am, working in an academic institution and practicing ophthalmology. So it's a long way. That's what I had to do. But that's why it's a little less. Next to Vinay.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me just fine?
Yes.
I'm going to try to share my screen, and I'm going to try to control, if I'm allowed to, my slide. That may be easier. So, my father always told me, anytime you change your country, you will put yourself 7 years behind. And, as Mahesh said, it's so true. I finished my LVP fellowship in 2001. I was so happy. I was hugging Nazimul. Thomas in the back, my senior, was clapping. Tuhin told me what to do. It was an amazing, amazing time. But you know what? I like to listen to my teacher, Dr. Das, and my dad, and they said, you know what, you should do something extra. So I went to the US thinking, I'm going to do a clinical fellowship. Kanan and I moved to the University of Florida, naive, unprepared, on a J1 research visa, without taking any the USMLE. Ended up at the University of Florida for a clinical fellowship. I ended up doing 2 years of research, publishing 40 papers, learning how to write English rather than just speak English. However, I missed something. You missed seeing patients, missed doing surgery. At that time, that American dream that Dr. Das was talking about was born in us. We wanted to be an academic ophthalmologist, or I wanted to be an academic ophthalmologist in the US. And my journey started in 2002. I did my internship in 2005 in general surgery. These were 4 in the morning rounds, 36 hours of call every 4th day. But you know what? The bright spot was we had our 2 daughters, and I matched into ophthalmology. Given I had a gap year in 2006, I decided to pursue something different. I actually went and did a neuro-ophthalmology fellowship because that was my weakest link. I had mentors like Andy Lee, Sohan Singh Harris, Stan Thompson, a great journey, great appreciation for neuro-ophthalmology and neuro-ophthalmologist before I did my residency at the University of Missouri, Kansas City from 2006 to 2009. Doing your second residency, second or third fellowship, it's easy, or relatively, I should say, easy from the ophthalmology standpoint. It's more the adaptability that you have to build, the camaraderie you build with your residents that sometimes are your seniors, but lack the knowledge. But I think these were the best 3 years of my life. In 2009, we were at a crossroads. I wanted to pursue retina, but my wife was still doing her residency. And I have to appreciate her and my 2 daughters who decided to stay back in Kansas City to finish her residency while I went to Detroit at the Kresge Eye Institute with Dr. Gary Abrams, Tamer Mahmood, and others to do my retina fellowship. 10 years from 2001 to 2011, it took for me to finally become a board certified American vitreoretinal specialist. And currently I'm at the Dean McGee Eye Institute. As I said, it's been 10 years. The journey has been amazing to teach. I do some research and obviously a busy practice. However, the question always bugs you. Was this all worth it? And I think we'll all talk about this and you guys will actually decide if this was worth it for us. But thank you, Hermoina.
Thank you, Vinay. So my road, just like Mahesh and Vinay, has been long, but it's been rewarding. It's been bumpy at times too. It all started with LV Prasad. I did my glaucoma fellowship at LV Prasad in 2001. And I headed to Bascom Palmer pretty much straight after my fellowship. I spent 3 years at Bascom doing research fellowship in imaging and glaucoma. And that was an extremely exciting time for me. I mean, it had its highs and lows, but the highs was, at that time, imaging in glaucoma was still in its infancy. And I was right at the forefront of cutting edge research. At that time, even most clinical glaucoma faculty, including the ones at Bascom, they were very skeptical about imaging, and it was just merely thought of as a toy. And in my lifetime, I've seen it transform from just mere toys to standard of care. And so that has been so rewarding. My daytime was spent, just collecting data, making sense of the data, publishing, presenting. And at night, I would study USMLE, things like biochemistry and physiology, things that I had not studied. Like the last I'd studied them was 15 years ago. And so to go back to the basics was hard. But I did it, and by the grace of God, I matched into ophthalmology program at Northwestern University in Chicago. I did have to do 1 year of internship, which I think I still suffer from some PTSD about that, because I am amazed how I spent that 1 year in ICU and floor rotations and ended up not killing anybody. Yeah, that was, I think, one of the most challenging years in my life. But anyways, ended up doing my ophthalmology residency at Northwestern for 3 years. After that, I did a clinical glaucoma fellowship with Dr. Weinreb. And from then on, I have been in private practice. All my life, I'd sort of envisioned myself in academics, but as you know, life often does, there was a change in plan, and I ended up in private practice. And looking back, it's been a blessing in disguise, because I've been able to fashion my practice with literally the best of both worlds, because I have a busy practice, very surgically heavy, a lot of referrals for glaucoma. I do all of the mixed procedures that are available here, and of course, tubes and trabs. And then I'm also involved in some exciting clinical trials involving mixed procedures and imaging devices. And I'm also involved in teaching the local optometrists. So to me, I'm having my cake and I'm eating it too. But yeah, it took me 8 years. This road took me 8 years, and I don't regret the journey at all, because in this whole entire journey, I have consciously worked on reminding myself that it is all about the journey and not about the destination. And I've met amazing people along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Harmonia. And some other time, Harmonia will tell you that how snakes were keeping company of hers in.
Yeah, that I do regret.
Some other time, not now. I know the story. I heard one more time from her also. Oh well. We all have heard or read the story of Gandhi thrown out of a first-class compartment of a train in Martinsburg in South Africa, and he spent 9 hours from 9 in the evening to 6 in the morning next morning before he was rescued by the residents, black and browns of Martinsburg. Has anybody thought about what might have happened to him to those 9 hours? He has not written in his book, and most probably he's kept quiet. But I have my interpretation. I divided those 9 hours into 3 divisions. The first 3 hours between 9 evening to 12 midnight, he must have seized anger and revenge. I will kill these guys. Next 3 hours, he must have been becoming cold during that night. He must have thought about that. Why not to run away from here, opt out to a safe route to India and do practice in Rajkot or Mumbai somewhere. The last 3 hours was the most important 3 hours, between 3 in the morning to 6 in the morning. He must have thought that, let me stay back and fight the deep disease of color prejudice. And that was the beginning of the change from a mere Mohandas to a great Mahatma. He did not become Bapu before he came to India, though. So tipping point for Gandhi was thrown out of a train, but also the last 3 hours, which changed. Some portion we heard, but now I will ask this question to my three guys: that what was your recall your tipping point in your life that made you decision that you made? We'll start with Vinay, Harmoina, then Mahesh.
Thank you, sir. I think, I'm going to go back to the inspiration, and, it usually, the road, when you start, you don't know what's going to end, where you're going to end, but you have people to guide you. And it takes somebody special, a gifted teacher or your parent who takes the time and heart to sit with you. And for me, it's been an amazing, I have been blessed to have amazing mentors through my journey. And I'm going to actually talk about these mentors because I think we all are shaped from the people that are around us and the people that actually guide us. My first mentor is my dad. He gave me the strength and showed me the direction and taught me to be a good guy, a good human being. I end up in LV Prasad Eye Institute, and my mentors there, Dr. Das, what I learned from him is how to cherish, how to love your fellow, how to love your student. He taught me to dream and work hard to achieve those dreams. Sir, those morning walks actually, it was great operating, trying these new cutters and vitrectomy machines from, the old Series 10,000 to the Acuras. But I think the morning walk, so please continue that with your fellows. Dr. Subhadra Jalali, you taught us work-life balance and dedications to your patients. I've never seen anybody so dedicated to her little ROP babies. So thank you for that. Dr. Rao, your inspiration was number one. I remember a story, the first day after your first and cabbage, you were down on the first floor with your briefcase, which is pretty heavy, by the way, taking the stairs. And I offered to take your bag and you said, hey, go to lecture. Don't worry about me. And he goes by his rules. He walks the talk. And the inspiration of giving back, trying to make a difference, what he basically mentioned in his talk. And that always has been a guiding principle, that always try to give back. I went to do my neuro-ophthalmology fellowship at Iowa. And every time I sent an email to Andy Lee, the response was great, GREAT. And I would say, why not okay? Why not yes, sir? Why great? And he said, Vinay, the left hand, if you only use your left hand, GREAT is on the left side of the keyboard while your right hand is doing something else. That's the master of efficiency and multitasking. I go to my fellowship. I work with Gary Abrams. He would take 4 and 5 hours to do a PVR case and flatten the retina. And that would be the 4th or 5th surgery for that patient. But what I learned from that is he was a thinker, a planner, a guy with patience and focus and perseverance. And if you do that, even after 4 or 5 hours of being in an eye of which has a 7 ml of volume, you can give a good result to the patient. And that's what this journey is about. It's not about the time. It's not about the path. It's about the destination. We all see the product. And you're seeing all these different products right now, but the process is what's important. And so I think that's what I learned. That's what my inspiration is. And I really appreciate all my mentors and the process to make me a better person. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Vinay Harmohina, please.
Thank you, sir. So for me, the tipping point was my time at LV Prasad. I have to say that's what set up sort of this domino effect and landed me where I am today. I remember in my fellowship towards the end of last few months, I got this opportunity to play with HRT. And at that time, again, 20 years ago, this was not only new technology in the world, it was very, very new in India. And of course, LV Prasad had it. And I got to play with it. I presented a few cases to Dr. Roger Hitchings, who was visiting at that time. And I was just struck by how little we know about imaging. I got very interested. That's what triggered my fellowship to Bascom Palmer. And that just, there was no looking back after that. But I have to say, what has been the most inspiring has been, for me, has been my mentors. And there's this saying by Isaac Newton that says, if I've seen further, I've seen it by standing on the shoulders of giants. And for me, those giants were definitely number one, Dr. GC. He is the man who's taught me glaucoma, and he will forever be, he has my highest respect. Because what I learned about glaucoma from him, 2 fellowships later, I still didn't learn what I learned from him. It's been such an amazing experience in LV. I also had wonderful mentors like Dr. Greenfield, Dr. Kruppen, Dr. Weinreb, and these people saw the potential in me. They helped me see that potential and then work hard to transform it into reality. I also have been so inspired by Dr. Rao, because not only his contributions to ophthalmology, to all of us ophthalmologists, to the community, but what he said on that first day of fellowship, those words are sort of etched in my memory. And those words were something amounting to, you may have gotten by thus far, but in this 1 year, you're going to work 18 hours a day, sleep for less than 3 hours a day. And you're going to realize that as human beings, we are capable of much more than we think we are. And that statement is so true. And I've marveled at how accurate it was so many times in my life. So it's all these wonderful teachers, it's being at the right place at the right time, blessings from God that has helped shape me the way I am.
Thank you, Mona. Mahesh, please.
Mahesh, you're muted.
I just want to thank you, Dr. Das. I kind of echo what Harmona and Vinay said. For me, the tipping point was the journal clubs at LVP. Those were the inspiring moments for me to think beyond just being a surgeon. I still remember what Dr. Rao said in the first or second lecture. I can teach a baboon cataract surgery, but I can't teach them to be a good ophthalmologist who think beyond it. And it kind of echoed in me always, since I don't want to be just a surgeon doing cutting. It's not what I want. I want to think beyond and contribute something to the field. So that kind of was very, very, very inspiring. Obviously, Dr. Rao has a great vision, which I don't think any of us have, but at least we try to emulate to an extent what we can do. So he has been a true role model, and if I had never been in LVP, I wouldn't have been here, what I'm doing right now. The other person I would want to thank is Dr. Sangwa. It still rings memory of his slides and cartoons of TH1 and TH2, and we used to sit and back and make fun what this has to do with doing a cornea study. But that really spurred me into pursuing a career in ocular immunology. So I had to really thank him, and I can't appreciate how much he has inspired me in my life. And at the same time, in 2001, I was the time when he was doing all the stem cell work, and I was the first fellow at that time, and he did his first of those transplant, which we have no idea how it's going to work, what is going to happen, and the expansion of the cells in vivo and all that stuff was happening. And I was really excited to be part of that. So I have to thank him as well for all the things that he has inspired me. No, at least not, and then obviously my mentors in US, my late mentor, Dr. Nussenblatt, whom I spent a long time and had a great relationship. He passed away in 2016. Without him, I don't think I would have reached anywhere. So when I think back, all this is because of true, inspiring, great leaders we have come across in our life. And without them, I don't think nothing is possible. So thinking forward, I just want to, in my own way, to contribute and inspire other people in my own little way. Thank you.
Right. I had the greatest fortune of working with one legendary guy who is no more with us, was Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who finally become president of India. I worked him very, very closely for 15 years, from 2000 to 2015 till he died. Every time I meet him, my almost every month or 45 days, I meet him one way or other way, that time all in person. His question will be, I will say Hindi mein ghuma phira ke, okay, my friend, my fellow, what will you remember for? And few times I didn't understand what he's asking and why he's asking that. Ultimately answered, well, in person I used to call not His Excellency, etc. I would just call Abdul Kalam only. And Kalam, I am a good surgeon, I am a good teacher, I publish, I got a good family, that's it. Oh, well, that's not what I'm looking for. You should do something beyond that, and you have created a legacy. So I didn't understand what legacy will create. That story apart, when I didn't understand at all, because I like Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, I always call him that way, I don't call Mahatma Gandhi. He read something from Gandhi's quotation, and it reads like this, that I still remember that the evening he told me in Rashtrapati Bhavan, That was, I think, 2003. And that's what Gandhi wrote, that your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and values becomes your destiny. That's the last and the more important, that once you go to that step called values, which Nagarao is always teaching us, that becomes your destiny. So I will ask my three friends now, tell us what you remembered for in life. Like we told that Nagarao remembered for his contribution to ophthalmology, particularly LV Prasad. So what we remembered for, we'll start with Harmohina now, then Mahesh, then Vinay.
So if I were to talk about, what I want to be remembered for professionally, definitely I want to be remembered by my patients as someone who's been a kind and compassionate, highly skilled doctor who's always worked motivated by passion for healing, helping my patients as best as I can, never motivated by financial reasons. And I strive to do that every day of my life. I also want to be remembered by my mentors as someone who took direction well, and what they saw in me, I was able to see in myself and work hard to make it happen. In terms of, I also want to be able to give something back to my mothership, which is that, this road that I've traveled, if I had to do it all over again, there were so many things I would do to avoid some of the little potholes and puddles and roadblocks that I encountered. So I would love to mentor someone else who is thinking of taking this road and help smoothen out some of the bumps for them. I'd love to be able to get back to LV in whatever way I can, help teach my younger generation of ophthalmologists what I've learned, do collaborated research projects with LV. But yes, as in a nutshell, I definitely want to be remembered for my passion and for my compassion.
Thank you. Mahesh?
Yeah, I think, as rightly said, as Mona said, one of the things that still from today's presentation, even Dr. Rao's, which LVP taught us, is equivalence in care. It's no matter where you are in the financial strata of your society, equal care for everybody. And I strive towards that, and that's been one of the inspirations for me. I spend a lot of time these days teaching younger colleagues because as an educator, so which education of the younger generation is so important. That's one of the reasons why modern medicine has come a long, long way. And I look forward to connecting with my mothership, volunteering and teaching and spending some time in the near future, maybe on a yearly basis or something like that, surgical, non-surgical, and be part involved with that. And I'm really looking forward. This opens up an opportunity for me to do that. And as I have seen for many years, sitting in the sidelines, seeing all the great research and advancement in science and ophthalmology happening at LVP, and I do want to be part of it, and I look forward to any opportunities on that regard as well. So one of the other biggest things that I remember from my fellowship is that Dr. Rao gave us an opportunity out of the blue to go and spend a week in a primary care setting. So I don't remember where this was, but it was spend a week ahead and in a primary care setting where there's no attendings and you are with someone else and you're doing and taking care of patients for a week. I really cherish that moment, and I really want to do something like that, come back and work in a primary setting, working back and giving some to the community at some point. And I want to do that on a frequent basis. So that's something that I would like to do, because the paths of ophthalmology that we took and we're not giving anything back to the community, and that just is something that I really want to do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Somebody asked me one time, what do you want on your tombstone? When you're gone, what do people want you to remember? And, it's hard when you think about that. I echo what Mahesh and Harmohina said. in my small way, I want to be remembered as a teacher, as a good person, as a father. 7 to 8 years ago, we got an email from a field worker in Africa. And he said, man, thank you. Thank you for developing a tool that I had the ability to check vision on a patient in the middle of nowhere without any cell phone connection, without any hospital, through your application iHandbook. So, it's a free resource that you can, and I think I've done some research. I'm nowhere compared to my mentors and colleagues and, my teachers here, but in my little way, I think you never know what clicks, what helps people. And since my mentor, Dr. Das loves Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, I'm going to call him Mahatma Gandhi. He once wrote, to find yourself, you have to lose yourself in the service of others. And it's so true. I go to Ahmedabad about 2 or 3 times a year. I operate at a hospital called, it's run by the Blind People's Association in Bareja in Gujarat. And the fulfillment, the joy, the pride I get from operating on an RD in a rickshaw driver is way more than when I see my patients with a Bentley. And because it's that fulfillment of giving back. And I would hope that I will be remembered as a teacher, as a person who gave back to the community, even in the little small way, by taking care of these patients. Lastly, I haven't worked a lot with LVP since I've been gone. I've been back a couple of times, and I would love if I had the opportunity to work with LVP in the future. There's no way I'm going to use the word help because I'm nowhere close to being able to even help anything in LVP, but I would love to be part of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinay. I will ask now permission from Praveen because now I'm counting my time. We just run out of time with 30 seconds left to my half hour. So if Praveen allows, we will continue for next 10 minutes. If not, we will stop here, or 7 minutes maybe.
Dr. Das, I think we're about 15 minutes behind schedule. If you don't mind, I think there have been some amazing stories so far and really inspiring for the younger generation and for people who are older like us as well. But I think we're also looking forward to hearing Professor Chauhan next, if you don't mind.
Right. No. That's why I asked that question, that if you allow us only. So I am grateful to all the 3 of my students once upon a time, but I don't know whether I'm still a teacher to them. To Vinay, I am. And I would have told the story how Vinay passed his MLE. The Gandhi way actually passed his exam, but some other time. So I pass it on. If you agree, Vinay, Harmohina, and Mahesh, that you will not go next 5 minutes with us. Is it all right for you guys? All right. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You have big speakers ahead, so.
So I am going to take over now, and it was great listening to all of you. It brought back fantastic memories, particularly because Harmohina was my roommate.
Yes.
Mahesh was my scooter buddy, and Vinay was one of the 3 Shahs who all did fellowship at the same time. Okay, so it was just a fantastic trip down memory lane. And thanks, guys, for coming back and spending time with us and sharing all your wonderful stories about how you've managed all these years. We move on now. I'm going to invite Dr. Rao to to take the stage and to introduce Veer Chauhan, who's going to give the keynote address for this evening. Dr. Rao, over to you.
We have all gone through a terrible time during 2020, the pandemic. And the entire world was anxiously awaiting the arrival of vaccines. And we thought it's very appropriate during this time for us to get greater understanding about the vaccines, what are all the controversies, and what is the truth. Today, we are very fortunate to have a person who has the right background and right expertise and who made incredible contributions to the science of vaccines during his entire life. A graduate of Delhi University, then went on to do his master's and PhD there, then went to Oxford as a Rhodes Scholar, came back. I think our guest could not stay away from Delhi for too long at any time in his life. He's addicted to our national capital in some sense. Then came back to St. Stephen's on the faculty, Delhi University faculty, went for a short while to Indian Institute of Technology in Kanpur, again came back to Delhi, and ultimately ended up as the director of the new International Institute in Genetics and Biotechnology. And that's where he established many vaccine programs. His greatest contribution is to the vaccines for malaria. And ladies and gentlemen, and in addition, he was also a leader in education. He was the former chairman of the University of Grants Commission of India. He was the chair of the NAC, that is the accreditation body for standards of universities. And the greatest honor he has, and I have to post here, is he's been a member of our Hyderabad Eye Research Foundation board, and actually just took over as the chair of that board. And for that, we are very grateful. And ladies and gentlemen, it's my great privilege to present to you Professor Virender Chauhan. Veer, it's all yours.
Thank you, Nag. Can you all hear me? Nag, am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really have enjoyed the evening. It's fantastic to listen to a lot of alumni. I actually gave a talk about new education policy at the SOCHM this afternoon, and this idea of the business of losing a lot of great talent that is produced from our schools to our university and finally serving elsewhere. And this talk is very ripe. So I was just listening to a lot of alumni who've done amazingly good quality work wherever they've gone. But I won't get into that discussion. I'll just say a word about you now, if I may. My first visit to LVPEI was actually as a patient. And Dr. Chandrasekhar looked into my eyes, and is still doing so every time I come to LVPEI. My next association was in Balu, whom I really admire, who's one of the person I look up to, what an educationist should be, what a researcher should be, invited me for a talk, which is so typical to what LVPEI does. Invites people to talk, and so this is years back. But now when I met you about few years back, so I've been running, I've been secretary for the Rhodes Scholarships in India for years now, as long as I can remember. Also trustee of the INLAC scholarships. So end up seeing some amazing quality, good student year after year. And as a chairman of the committee, which is my job to find a chairman, I've had the honor to work with Ratan Tata. I've worked with Narayan Murthy, Sardar Manmohan Singh, and many others who've been, Kumar Mangalam, Birla, who've been my chairman. I never envied them. I admired them. But when I met you first time or second time, I actually envy you. And I hope that next birth, if we are born together at the same time, I end up working with you somewhere. So I'll not say anything more to embarrass myself and to embarrass you. What you've been able to do. I was very young when I went and talked to Yusuf Hamid of Sipla. And one time I honored to meet Dr. Kurian. And I think I placed you in the same class. So what you've done is amazing. I've always written to you in reply to something very cryptic, that if this all has been achieved and is being achieved, what next? I always wonder. And I'm very pleased that I'm associated with the LVPEI now. What I have in front of us, I know we are running late, so I'm going to be very, very quick. Given the audience that I have, I don't have to labor because all of you know as much about COVID as I do. So I'm going to rush through the What I've noticed about COVID or the previous pandemic, pandemics are not any new to us. Past 30, 40 years, they've been very regular, right from HIV to Zika to Ebola to bird flu to swine flu. And that's discussion for another time, why they are showing up with such regularity. SARS-1 came in 2003, and if you recall, all of you recall in Nature or Science and Cell, that we don't know how to handle. But SARS-1 very quietly came, killed about 800 people, infected 8,000 people, just disappeared. We have another friend of, or the brother or whatever, of SARS-2, and this has paralyzed the whole world. And I think we are in the still paralyzed state. So let me, if I can share my slides and run through, and I'll keep an eye on the watch so I don't delay all of you very much. Every point or bullet that to remind me I have to focus has a story there. So I'll not be tempted to tell you too many stories. I'll just run through my slides. So if I can show my, project my slides quickly. And I, as I said, all of you know this, but so this is a fact sheet of COVID-19, human-to-human transmission. Now the WHO team went to China after a year, almost a year, and we still do not know where did it originate. And I leave that story. That's a really tight story. If this virus had emerged in another part of the world, we probably would have known much more about how did it originate, how did it start, but so be it. Genome sequence was made public by an Australian and Chinese team on 11th of January. And this was an amazing sequence. The genome was put on the net, and we had access to it by the afternoon of 11th of January. Everybody had access. And RT-PCR, the sequences of the primers was actually from France and Germany and started coming in 4 days. Why I'm saying this, the timelines, the science worked so fast and collaborated so much that these things just kept dropping, and keeping in touch with the literature was becoming very difficult, right? Even in March and April. That SARS-CoV-2 has receptor ACE2 and angiotensin converting enzyme receptor 2 is in many other organs. It's all over the place. So this virus is going to be more troublesome, not only upper respiratory tract, but you will have problem with lungs and liver, and now we know brain, would go everywhere, and that's what has happened. But while that was happening, mRNA vaccine actually was getting into human trials, and this story I'll take a little bit further. It was declared as pandemic by WHO only on 11th of March. There hangs a large story, and WHO came under a lot of fire when so much travel had happened from China to Italy to Spain, and Europe just exploded, and European system just could not cope with it, and I think all of you followed that. The first case, incidentally, in India was also on 11th of March. This is a student who traveled from Wuhan, came to Kerala, and followed by national lockdowns and so on. You know all the stories. So this is just a fact sheet. Next slide will take you through. This is nothing spectacular for you, for this audience. Electron microscope image from NIH came within a month. A virus isolated. This is actually what it looks like. Next slide is the artist's view of. It's important for an audience which is not scientist. So the spikes that come, the so-called S protein against which most vaccines are actually sticking out of the virus and are the contacts which are made with the ACE receptor. Now we know a hell of a lot about biology. We do not know very much about the immunology of the virus, but we know a hell of a lot about it. Structures are known, that the S protein goes under conformational changes before it enters. It is cleaved by, there's a furin site, etc., etc. Next slide will just tell you artistic view of how the attachment takes place. The S protein binds to ACE receptor. Now, if you compare this with the SARS-1, the attachment or the affinity to ACE2 of the present virus is much more than the previous versions of this virus. That's why it is much more infective. Is it a successful virus? Frankly, it's much, much more successful virus than its earlier avatar in 2003. The earlier avatar was killing 10%. It infected 8,000 people and killed 800 people. This current fellow doesn't kill more than 1.2, 1.3. If you take the word average, it'll be less than 2%. So in that case, it's hugely successful. It could probably become more successful in the sense it could spread more, but it would probably will end up killing less people. Next slide. This is, you will appreciate this. So in the middle is the SARS-1 that came in 2003. Below that is another coronavirus, which is Middle East respiratory syndrome COVID-2. And you can see how desperately similar their genomes are. I'm not going to walk through the genomes, except for that since we knew about SARS-1, SARS-1 actually in 2003 created a havoc, and much was known about it. So when SARS-2, the present virus, came, so similarity was striking. Within week time, people were designing vaccine. They knew the business. And so the sometimes question is asked, what happened? This is what happened. Given the viruses, this is an RNA virus, and all of you know that already, is one of the longest, probably the longest RNA virus. There are a lot of RNA viruses common infect us, but they're smaller. The smallest virus is about 2,000 nucleotides. So in the family, this is a large one, and therefore there are many more proteins it does. Even an editing protein is expressed by it. But I leave this. I just wanted to shine this slide to say how similar. So they probably emerge, and nothing to say. And I say this with greatest of responsibility, that tomorrow there won't be any SARS-3 if it could emerge into various versions at different places. And if we continue to play havoc with the nature, and I use that with clarity, if we eliminate animal spaces as we do continuously, I cannot see that there would not be COVID-3 or 4 or different viruses coming. It just stand to reason it could mutate into more deadly form, not today, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Next slide. So I'll come straight to the vaccine development. Generally vaccine, and we worked on vaccine for about 25, 30 years now. So designing vaccine today in 2020 is really easy. Very, very easy. You know the genome sequence, you can sequence in one day, you know exactly what you're looking for. So either if you're lucky, the virus grows, unlike many other viruses, then you have a rationale for a vaccine. If you know the business end of the virus, where virus does business from, and you know that you can raise antibodies and neutralize it, and so much the better. In this case, we knew it very earlier on. And you can just grow viruses and inactivate them. You have a basis for vaccine. So scientific designing a vaccine is really easy. Production of vaccine, the moment, for example, in this case, if you want to do it, you need to produce it under very good conditions, because the production has to go into humans. So suddenly you find 2,000 of us can design a vaccine, but ability to actually produce it and then formulate it will be limited with people. So the universities or the industries that have in the business, so the funnel becomes thinner. Formulation is very important and many times not realized. So when you make a vaccine, it is not just a virus or a S protein or whatever. It has to be formulated. So Moderna is formulated in something else. Pfizer is formulated something. And this is what is done in the industry. I still think academic work provided the basis for everything that is on this slide. For the production, for the scale up, for the formulation, for the science, actually comes from the universities, from America, from England, from wherever, and finally it had to go to industry. If formulation is not stable, the vaccine is thrown out of the window. It has to be stable. It has to survive. So this is the normal step. To do this for a new vaccine takes about 10 years. After 10 years of work of formulated, like if you want to make a vaccine for tuberculosis or malaria tomorrow, it will consume about 8 to 10 years. Small animal studies are done. This is routine. The safety is ensured. And you want to see a mouse and rabbit have very similar immune system, whether you get immune response or not. Getting immune response from a vaccine is not sufficient, obviously. It's necessary, but not sufficient condition. It must neutralize the S. In other words, it should do the business. The immune responses, whether this is humoral responses or cellular responses, i.e. that is antibody or killer T cells, they must do the job. I say this because in malaria, for example, you get huge immune responses. And I work in malaria, but they're not protected. So you get a flush of antibody, but they don't protect you. So you have to set up a neutralization assay. And fortunately for COVID or coronaviruses, these assays for SARS-1 were already there in the lab. So it was very easy to do for SARS-2. Then, of course, you go to phase 1 safety trial. This is crucially important step. In COVID, imagine this, that I'm making a vaccine. I do not know anything about the virus, but I'm getting volunteers by choice coming to me, okay, you can put a piece of virus in me. That phase 1 trial, I think, is the most brave humanity does the job. So there could be adverse effect, that there always are. In the phase 1, you do dosing. You look at low dose, middle dose, high dose, and there are always fear that in a heart. So phase 1 is extremely crucial. We don't realize how those who volunteer for this are amazing. I don't see anybody offering doing this in India, but that's another story. Phase 2 and phase 3 in situation like COVID can be merged, but in phase 2 you do expanded trial of phase 1. You're still looking at safety. Why we continue to look at safety? Because, and that's a crucial point. A lot of people say, is the vaccine safe or not? Because the vaccines are going to be given to people who are healthy. So one thing you cannot play around, whether you're a regulator or a manufacturer or a scientist, is the safety of the vaccine. And no matter which country you are, the safety has to be absolutely ensured. Regulatory considerations can change from depending on the situation that you are. First time we provided emergency approval usage was not for COVID, it was for Ebola. When it exploded in Western Africa and beginning to go to America, the vaccine, Merck had a vaccine that it was given emergency. So the regulator has to respond also very, very quickly. And we see a spectacular response from regulators in the case of COVID. Next slide. So this is a general vaccine. Now it's a specific for the COVID-19 vaccine. Every single platform that we knew was used. Some of them, as we famously now know, have never been used in humans. We've been working with them in collaboration. We are ourselves working on, but never been used as a vaccine in humans. So when mRNA or DNA vaccine, they've been around for 20, 25 years in research, but never in humans. Similarly for viral vector, the cancer vaccines, gene therapy has been looked at, but never as a vaccine. So the first two, which produced the first flush of vaccine and relatively easier to make, actually have never been used as a vaccine in humans. Inactivated live virus, we know for a very long time, as can grow virus. And there are many vaccines that you and I take which are inactivated virus. Then protein-based. The point I'm making is there's no platform was left unattended for the COVID vaccine. And as early as in April or May, there were more than 300 vaccines which were being developed. 250 is very conservative. Of course, many will not go forward. So, but last bullet is the first COVID vaccine in humans was in humans in the arm of individual in 63 days. I don't think this kind of record will ever be. This is like running 100 meters in 9.5 seconds. and Hussein Bolt comes and run in 9.65, whatever, and it'll be really unchallenged. I cannot see this time can be squeezed any further. Next slide. So I'll just very quickly, because I really don't want to take too much time. So this is the current situation, which is end of January. And I don't think many will be added. I could be proved wrong. So 37 vaccines are or have gone through phase 1 trial. 24 have crossed the phase 2 trial. 20 are in phase 3 trial. I didn't mention that phase 3 trial is typically for a COVID vaccine is 30, 40,000 people with a placebo, half of them and half of them. And I'll come to this point of phase 3 trial if we have to do them in India or anywhere else. I'll come to this a little bit later. So you see already there are about 70 vaccines. 8 vaccines are in use, emergency usage all over the world. 2 has actually been approved, not in the country they originated from, but in some other, like Switzerland, for example, has approved Moderna and Pfizer, but I don't want to get into discussion. While these were being developed, vaccines which were abandoned, and unfortunately some of the very good vaccine companies like Merck, and I think I'll have a slide there, realized that after an Australian vaccine, it looked very promising, were to be dropped, either on the safety issues or lack of immunogenicity. So I think this slide might change in a couple of months from now. Many from phase 1 may not go to phase 2 because you already have 8 or 10 or 15 vaccines. But let's say some of them mature. So if the COVID stays on, at least we would have 20, 25 vaccines to choose from. We may not want to choose from 20 vaccines, but they certainly will. At least we are saying that at least 24 vaccines will be developed. There's one Cuban vaccine coming up. People have asked, what is emergency usage approval? Why should you give it, when and how? So in an unprecedented situation, as everybody is saying, you need to really deal with situation in an unprecedented way. So the bottom line of emergency approval, as was in Ebola, that the known and potential benefit from the intervention, and in this case a vaccine, must outweigh the known and potential risk of the vaccine. So if you can cover the risk, adverse event will take place, this will happen. But if you can ensure that, then you say, all right, while pandemic is on, we will not worry about outcome of phase 3 trial for 2 years, and we'll start vaccinating. And the other condition with WHO and other institutions put that at least it should be 50% efficacious. Fortunately, the vaccines that are being rolled out right now are way above 50%, except for one Chinese vaccine, which has shown pretty poor performance in Brazil, although in China 90%, but Brazil 52%. But all vaccines so far are safe, and all vaccines are efficacious. And regulatory approval, of course, have challenges. And those of you who followed what happened in India would know these challenges. You're racing in time, you're racing against making things available, etc., etc. The regulatory challenges or outcome of regulatory processes might differ from country to country. It has differed. Russians, for example, or Chinese early vaccines they had just entered phase 3 trial. All they had is their safety data, but both countries approved them. But what will never and should never and will never be compromised is whether they're safe or not. Even the worst case will never be compromised with the safety. Next slide. So I'm beginning to come to the last few slides. So this is a snapshot of what is available. Then look at the price at the end. So there is politics, there is economics, there's political economy in there, diplomacy in this. But for science, we know that the 2 mRNA vaccine, and I can spend hours, at least half an hour, why mRNA vaccines are unstable and why they need, but I'll leave all that. But they are the Pfizer and Moderna are overbooked right now. Rich country behaved as you would expect them to behave. they cornered all production that was possible of Pfizer, whether US, Canada. So as you and I speak, Africa, only one country in Africa is being vaccinated, unless somebody gives them vaccine. So very large part, and this is what I call economics and politics of pandemic, that the vaccines haven't reached them. The next two vaccines are based on adenovirus. They've been very successful. AstraZeneca is only $3, and there's a story, and the story for another time is Oxford University forced AstraZeneca in the MOU they signed that they, at least for a year, they can't sell it for more than price. And then there are inactivated vaccine, including with the Bharat Biotech. And that's, I think, all the apprehension about Bharat Biotech, and some of them are raised rightly at the time they were raised, have all disappeared because these vaccines have gone into literally millions of people. India has already reached more than 10 million injections. Some of the, and I don't really want to stress on this, some of the Chinese vaccines are being given where efficacy is a bit low and we don't know a huge amount about them. But you can see the variation in initial prices. Next slide. This is very exciting. What's happening to the new vaccines? All the vaccines that I showed you so far require 2 doses. And that's that's an amazing business. They have to get people back in a country like India, where they're already struggling to immunize people. All must get back and get another shot of a vaccine. And that first finding people and giving them will be a problem, but getting them back. Johnson & Johnson inactivated virus vaccine has been formulated in such a way that it seems like you need only 1 shot. NIH is finally looking at the data, and this approval may come any day now. NIH has been extremely careful, and people will be surprised to know that while UK said yes to AstraZeneca, NIH still did not say to AstraZeneca. So there are different standards. And Moderna was said yes after Pfizer only 10 days later, although they have the data. So transparency of the regulator will bring huge confidence in people. But as I said, there are stories between stories. My favorite is Novavax, because we collaborated with Novavax on a malaria vaccine. Not because of that, it's a protein base. The stability of a protein, they express S protein in baculovirus, which then is put as a virus-like particle. And then they have a proprietary adjuvant called Matrix M. We use it for our malaria vaccine now. And this vaccine looks extremely good. Fortunately, it will be produced in India by Serum Institute. And CEPI and WHO have invested in this. And this is, as I said, one can tell you so many details about this. The time is very short. But this is the vaccine, or these are the vaccines, not these. Novavax is a vaccine that has a potential to reach from India and AstraZeneca, places where the vaccine will not reach so easily. Both vaccines are highly efficacious. Unfortunately, Merck vaccine, which should have worked very well, the trials have been stopped completely because they didn't see the immunogenicity. And Merck would have been, in all, like papillomavirus vaccine or any other vaccine, Merck is a leader. Unfortunately, both their vaccines have gone. I think they're stopping developing because there are so many of them already. Next. Okay, now next 2, 3, 4 minutes on the mutants, because this is doing rounds. This is the race which I mentioned. We are throwing things at virus, and virus, this one, is reverting back. So sometimes we feel we are ahead of the virus, but surely virus immediately says, all right, you think you are ahead, but look at me. So we know the evolution, simply evolution require not just the mutation, but selection has to be there. All of you know this. I don't have to stress this. All viruses mutate. It is inherent to their replication. And once again, this is not a lecture on virology, but they all. RNA viruses mutate more than DNA virus, and all of you know that why. And you can mutate, and they mutate all the time. You can have a mutation which is non-synonymous, or you can have synonymous, but that also you know, so I'm not going to worry about it. Most mutants mutations that take place, they weaken the virus. That's why somewhere 6 months back, I said, humans will get rid of the virus in a couple of years' time. And that's what should happen to something that spreads so fast. But some of these mutations may allow selective advantage to the virus, and that's what has happened to this virus. Why? Because then you suddenly, within a virus population, I have a better infective virus coming out, and I can escape immunity. And of course, then I'll dominate within my own virus population. That's what has happened. New viruses then outcompete the older virus and spread. Maybe they'll spread faster, maybe they'll kill more, and these studies will need to be done. COVID-19 mutation, so this is just to put in perspective. As I said, actually we made a statement, all of us made a statement that COVID-19 does not mutate very fast. We were following this in May, June, July. It doesn't mutate. Flu virus mutates at least 1,000 times faster or more mutation. But given that it has mutated, these mutants has emerged. And let me show you the mutants. So one of the mutant actually emerged right in the very beginning of the pandemic, which is in late January. Mind you, we are talking about 11th of January genome sequences. Late January, a mutation had occurred, which was a D, which is glutamic acid, 146 position on the protein to glycine. And this mutation made the virus to spread faster. And this is what you saw in Europe or in America or everywhere. All the mutations that we are talking about is in the backdrop. So this mutation took place. So Wuhan virus had already changed in one single position that was selected with D146 to G. In late September, sometime near Kent, South London, and you're watching, when you have virus in your country, you watch. Not many countries have facilities to watch. Watching would mean if something suddenly exploding somewhere, you should have ability to isolate the virus and then sequence it. And really a handful of countries can do that. In UK, they suddenly saw a very large number of people getting infected in one part and then isolated the virus at one single mutation, N, that is asparagine at 501 position to Y, had emerged. Singularly, if you make evolution tree, this branch was so heavy that everybody's mouth fell. And then there is a proline 618 to H. So this is your UK variant, famously known B1.1.7. That's the other way of naming them. While this was happening in UK, independent, there's no evidence that it traveled from UK to South Africa. In fact, South African were saying roughly at the same time, another mutant occurred. You see at the end, N501Y is common to Brazilian, to the South African, and to the UK variant. So N501Y, or you call it Y1 or Y2, were created independent. Clearly, this is a mutation which helps the virus to spread faster, to bind to the ACE receptor much more tightly, and these evidences are already there. The South African mutant had a change in 484 position, which is E2K. Now, this is changing a negatively charged residue to a positively charged residue. This is E2K. It seems, now there is evidence that this mutation, both in Brazilian and this, and I've just given you some 9 non-silent. S protein is where the mutation takes place as a worry because that's the business end. So the 11 in the Brazilian one, 6 mutation in S protein in South African one, and 8 in S protein in UK. I haven't put the recent data which arrived day before yesterday from California. My own view, virologists will tell you, wherever there is a fast spread of virus, as it happened in California last month, you cannot not have mutants which will emerge. And most of the Californian, we'll get the data very soon, but N501Y is omnipresent. Next slide. So variant are susceptible to vaccine. This is the question everybody is asking. we don't know we have the final information, but what we definitely know that in the blood plasma of people who were naturally infected, the South African variant was less neutralized. There's no question about that data. So as I said, E481K and K417N are detrimental, and we know they may reduce. It's still a cautious may, because you're hearing from company that our vaccines are still effective. So partially some damage to the vaccine ability will be done. There's no doubt about it. Vaccine may be less effective against this variant. However, the memory cell, so T cell immunity, and Naged asked me something sometime earlier, and I'll come to that in a minute. Immunity could still be effective. So your cellular response, if you create a good quality cellular response, then you still might be able to protect yourself. But remember, earlier vaccines are only against the S protein. The Moderna, the Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and I forgot which fourth one, they have only S protein in the vaccine, where the inactivated virus, which is Covaxin and others, have the whole virus. And I really don't have time to explain that, but if anybody insists, then I'll explain that. These mutants certainly spread much more faster. We know that. They've been selected. And the rate of selection spread is 50% more, 70% more. I think people are doing a lot of study. What we do not know, that they cause more severe disease and more death. The initial study from London School of Tropical Medicine, Hygiene and Tropical Medicine is yes. And that's what Boris Johnson said about 3 weeks back, that unfortunately the UK variant might kill more people. And that causes huge alarm. I don't think we have all the data. That study was done only on 2,000 patients. So it may not be as bad as it's got. How are everybody responding? These vaccines are being rolled out every day on million cases. Brazilians, the Israelis have vaccinated 70% of their population. So the new booster vaccines are already in the pipeline. Pfizer has already created a vaccine to boost with the South African mutant. AstraZeneca, the Oxford group, has already produced a booster dose. Of course, that has to go into limited tests and so on, safety, security. But the companies and scientists are very, this is what I call race with the virus. Virus is doing this. And I think science or scientists or the developer are running a very close race with them. We might need more diverse response, but I think this will be discussed maybe a month from now. What would be the diverse response? Should we only focus on S protein, or should we involve other proteins, etc.? Will be under discussion. But just to say, as I speak with you, if a shot has been given by Pfizer or Moderna earlier vaccine, you could see in 2, 3, 4 months' time a booster dose with a modified Pfizer or modified Moderna vaccine, and that's a reality. Next slide. And I must finish now. These are the frequently asked questions. I hope I've answered some of them. Everybody has said, how come in 1 year you have produced a vaccine which is being rolled out? Not one vaccine, 8 vaccines. And maybe by next month, another 5 vaccines be added. And I think I partially explained to you, we knew so much about the virus. The vaccinology has moved on so quickly. Governments funded, put so much money in it. Scientists collaborated in an amazing fashion. So that's how it came. Does a natural infection provide immunity? Answer is absolutely yes. What we do not know for how long, and that we will know only as we grow in this in the pandemic. But yes, it produces a fairly robust response. I could spend a lot of time on this. The vaccine immunity provided by natural infection versus vaccination, but that's for another time. Most of you already know this. Is vaccine-induced immunity similar or the same as natural exposure? Well, I'll only say that vaccine-induced immunity is damn good immunity. It's protected, but it's not similar. So you'll get IgG response, but natural immunity produces a huge burst of IgA response. And I'll just stop there. Can you transmit COVID vaccine when you're vaccinated? Answer seems to be yes. Because none of the vaccine ever promised anyone, right from the very beginning, that will stop you from getting infected. The only promise was made and continues to be made that the vaccine will protect you against severe disease, hospitalization, and eventual death. As vaccines are being rolled out, we find they are slightly more effective than the outcome was measured. But outcome was not measured whether you get infected or not. And so outcome was whether you get severe disease or not. So we know that the monkey experiment had told initially that after vaccination, you still can carry virus. Would you transmit? Well, the answer is possibly yes. But would you transmit as much as somebody is not vaccinated? The answer is definitely not. The load of viral load in you will be much less. But this is not a hand wave. This is an intelligent guess. These experiments have to be done by epidemiologists. We don't know what is this. Are the vaccines safe? Yes. Are they efficacious? Absolutely yes. Which one you should take? With the little pinch of salt, I'll say take any one that you can lay your hands on when you get one. Should you get one? Yes. Unconditionally. If you're exposed, should you get a vaccine? Yes. Because you don't know how long the natural infection will cause. Could mixing of, this is what Nag had asked me sometime indirectly. This is an amazing issue. The FDA had said that don't change any protocol which you had produced from your phase 3 trial. In other words, if you have Moderna, you must get immunized with only Moderna as a second shot and for other vaccines. We're beginning to find now when the mutants are coming that actually mixing of vaccine may not be a very bad idea. And Sputnik, Russian vaccine, actually uses 2 different shots. It uses adenovirus 26 and adenovirus 5. And scientists, those who work on HIV or we work on malaria, for example, we know that prime and boosting can be done. And the last point, which is on my slide, is exactly addressing that. And these experiments have begun. Actually, AstraZeneca has already begun asking the question that if you're immunized with AstraZeneca, but then you are boosted with Moderna vaccine, will you produce a good response, better response? And answer seems to be animal experiments, yes. Your T-cell immunity response, this information came only about 10 days back. The preprint came, we saw the preprint that in animals, one vaccine followed by, this is by the way, this will have to go to small clinical trials. So this is not something that's going to happen tomorrow. But should the vaccine be mixed, it doesn't surprise, at least to me, that might not be a bad idea. This will reduce pressure from supply chains. So you can, whatever vaccine you can be secondly immunized with, I think we'll be able, I think by April end, this will become very clear. Can you mix and match vaccines or not? Okay, I thank you here, but I'll say this is something which is worrying a lot of us now. If you, can I just get me on this? If you were to bring Johnson & Johnson vaccine to India or Novavax vaccine to India, biological evidence is making a vaccine with Baylor College of Medicine. Sputnik trials are going on. And if in India, when the transmission rates are low, how would you do a phase 3 trial? The transmission rates are so low, you simply cannot do a large clinical trial. So these are the challenges which government will have to change. Bringing Johnson & Johnson and Novavax to say that you conduct phase 3 trial, even limited, just will not be possible because there's very little infection. They already have been tested in South Africa. So the new ways of introducing new vaccine, which I suspect will be added to the current list by end of April, early May. We'll have to think of other things. We have to tell people transparently, and this is my last comment, about vaccination hesitancy, getting people, even the medical people who know medicine very well are hesitating. the one thing which is the most important is transparency. Share everything with everyone all the time. You still may have hesitancy, but you have less hesitancy if you're transparent, honest, accept the weaknesses. Of course, we're dealing with a virus like this. We don't have a vaccine for HIV. We don't have a vaccine for TB. Don't have a vaccine for dengue, RSV, malaria. Oh, heavens haven't fallen. So we deal with them. And here, more the transparency now will bring people. And vaccination is not be end and all, and you get vaccinated and the virus will disappear. It is just one of the major armor we might have. What virus will produce in front of us tomorrow? Only virus, God knows, or whoever. But humans have moved very fast, and so has virus. I don't think race is over. The race is very much on. I thank you for your patience. I might have overrun the time. But finally, I'd say I'm so proud to be associated with LVPEI Eye Institute that I cannot describe it. I'm honored that you asked me to come here. Now call me anytime. I'll come in my sleep. I'll walk to Hyderabad if I have to walk. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Chauhan. That was such an illuminating talk, and we've got a million questions for you. But I think what you preempted most questions by having them in your last slide and answering most of the questions even before they were asked. Thank you also for saying what you did about LVPEI. And I think we also as a group feel proud to be associated with a person like you, and also about hearing things about COVID and the vaccine from the horse's mouth, so to say. So just two questions, I think, which are a common theme, which probably has not been touched upon, I think, that I've seen coming up. One question was about using the vaccine in people who are immunosuppressed or on immunosuppressed therapy, the chemotherapy or either on steroids or some immunosuppressives. Do you think that is safe at this point of time?
Yes, there is no contradiction there. If you're immunosuppressed, your immune response is going to be a little bit less than when you're not immunosuppressed, but it doesn't interfere anything with the therapy that you're taking. And if you're being treated for cancer or whatever, and you have to go to hospital, yes, absolutely. There's no contradiction. Even for serious allergic condition, people who are allergic, you can take vaccine, but you have to be looked at much more carefully by a physician in their presence. Yeah, there is absolutely no issue.
Thank you. And the second common question that seemed to be coming up quite a bit is about the duration between the doses of the vaccine. I know you touched upon that briefly.
No, this is the confusion which, unfortunately, I don't want to name the group. It has come from a vaccine which was developed by the Oxford group. Did so many trials in different countries, I really don't want to go into the details, but I can assure you, this is Sarah Gilbert and the whole group. They did many small trials in America, in Africa. US said to them, and is still saying to them, that we will look at a data from AstraZeneca only from a single trial, or single trial in the sense, trial in America. If you bring data from Brazil or South Africa or collate them from Oxford, so we will not accept. And that the position of FDA is there. Why I'm saying that? So there's so much variation in information. So there's one test which trial which Oxford did. So if you waited for longer than 4 weeks, then 5 weeks, then 6 weeks, and then you can cover more people, then your response was a little bit better. Now, question is this. To you and me, the information comes at this, that you can be given second shot anytime from 4 weeks to 12 weeks. Now, if logically, I would say if my response is going to be better after 12 weeks, why would I take it at 4 weeks? I would only take it at 12 weeks. That gives more time, government to immunize more people, etc., etc. And this is still really confusing. What might be true, and it needs to be explained by AstraZeneca. Maybe their single dose starts protecting you for a longer period. But they haven't done the trials to show whether second dose is desperately needed or not. Johnson & Johnson, on the other hand, inactivated vaccine, did very careful trial and published in New England Journal that the single dose protects them to get a very good response. So answering your question, this is a little bit confusing, but I can tell you what FDA said to Moderna and Pfizer. Do not play around with your trial data that you have produced. That is, between 1 month to 5 weeks, you must get the second shot. Only confusion with AstraZeneca.
Thank you so much again, Professor Chauhan. Amazing talk and amazing responses as well. Thank you for being here with us today. Mal?
Yeah, right. Fantastic talk, Dr. Chauhan is really amazing. So moving on, I'm going to invite Sayan, who fortunately or unfortunately sits on 2 chairs, one being the D. Balasubramaniam Chair of Research and the other being the Virendra Sangwan Chair of Regeneration. So over to you, Sayan, to give us some highlights, Sangwan Chair of Regeneration. So over to you, Sayan, to give us some highlights on research at LVP.
Hi, great to see everyone. I hope you can hear me and see my slides as well.
Yes, for both.
Thank you. So it was absolutely fantastic to listen to the inspiring stories from our very illustrious alumni and this absolutely illuminating talk from Professor Chauhan. And I know that we are running a little bit short of time, so I'll be really quick because this is all about you and the alumni, and I do not want to steal your thunder. What I'll do in the next 5 to 7 minutes or so is to give you a very quick run through of what we have been doing on the research front at LVPEI, especially in the last year of 2020. And it would obviously be an understatement to say that it was an eventful year, but it was definitely eventful in terms of our achievements, especially in research. We are very humbled, of course, by the many accolades that were bestowed on the institution, including rated as one of the best hospitals in the country, the best institution for vision rehabilitation, appreciation award for partnership in healthcare by Cognizant Foundation, and also one of our greatest achievements of continuing to distribute corneas for transplantation across the country, including 40% of all the corneas that were distributed in that time. I think, of course, the jewel of the crown or the icing on the cake was the Sanford and Susan Greenberg Outstanding Achievement Prize that was bestowed on Dr. Rao on behalf of the research achievements towards the eradication of blindness through the research efforts of LVPEI that he received. I would say that it is nothing short of a Lifetime Achievement Award or a Nobel in terms of what you can achieve with your work in ophthalmology and vision research. We also had 5 of our faculty, including Dr. Rao and Professor Balu, being acknowledged as being in the list of the top 2 scientists in the very famous study that all of you have heard of. And I would also add that amongst the others in ophthalmology who were recognized in this seminal study, we also had Dr. Sangwan and Dr. Honavar, who we are, of course, proud of as our alumni, and much of the work that they were acknowledged for was done during their time at LVPEI. And there were also awards from IAPB, which were going to Dr. Rao, Swati Kaliki, Professor Jill Keefe, and Dr. Das for their outstanding contribution as Vision Excellence Awards. And the alumni chair, Dr. Javed Ali, my dear friend, we should actually have a separate CME just on his achievements. And I think it would run longer than our alumni meeting. But Javed continues to do us proud with his numerous achievements that he had throughout the year. I think the most important of which, the most prestigious of which was the Lester T. Jones Surgical Anatomy Award, instituted by the American Academy of Ophthalmology and the American Society of Ophthalmic Plastic and Reconstructive Surgery. for in recognition of his outstanding scientific contributions to the field of ophthalmic plastics. I think very few people and outside North America have won this award, and Javed again made us proud of this, of also becoming the editor-in-chief of Seminars of Ophthalmology. There were numerous people from the faculty who were appointed on different editorial boards, and this is again in acknowledgement of the contribution that they have consistently provided to scientific research in their respective areas. People being appointed on several policy-making bodies across the world with relation to eradication of blindness or vision research. Even our very young fellows and students in research who got several achievements in terms of travel awards and fellowships for their graduate studies, and 3 PhDs being awarded in this short time. We also had people bagging awards in various competitions and conferences, including Swati Singh and Swati Kaliki, who won at the AIOS All India Talent Search Series, the second and third prize for the innovations in dry eye disease and ocular tumors respectively, and Dr. Varsha Ratti, who won it for a very, very simple innovation in identifying fungus in smears, which can make a really great breakthrough in resource limited settings for the diagnosis of this infection. Of course, our beloved Professor Balu, he was also recognized by his alumni, by his alma mater, BITS Pilani, and also inducted as a fellow of the Association for Research in Vision and Ophthalmology, or ARVO. There were 3 patents that the institute filed for. So this also goes in, to show that our research is tending to become more and more translational. Several new grants came in, although we are also waiting for some of that money to still be disbursed, and that is delayed because of the COVID situation. But what was most remarkable was our productivity in research. And I think both clinicians and scientists, they really put their head down, made use of most of the time or the extra time to work on papers that they got because of the lockdown, etc. And from the period of April 1st to December 31st, we had 422 publications. And the expected number of publications for 2020-2021 is going to be 550 plus, which is more than 40% of what we did last year, which was close to 400, which is, I think, just an outstanding achievement from a single institute. And what was good about this was that almost everybody contributed all across the board, both scientists and clinicians, and every cadre of clinician, irrespective of seniority. And this was all across specialties and journals, and especially contributions from our very young and budding clinician scientists who worked really hard. And this is, obviously shows that that the future of research in LVPEI is in very, very safe hands. And not only just in terms of the number of publications, but I also wanted to make the point that in terms of our contribution to ophthalmology and vision research, we continue to make seminal contributions in public health and community eye health led by Rohit Khanna and Srinivas Marnamulla. And we can assess the contribution that we are making, through the citations that these papers are getting. In genetics, to the work of Subroto Chakrabarti and Chitra Kanabiran, Savitri Sharma in microbiology, Dr. PG in infections, Swati in oncology, Javed in bacteriology, and we already spoke a little bit about him. And I just want to summarize by saying that our vision for research is research for vision, that we want to work towards ultimately working towards eradicating needless blindness. And that is our long-term vision, that we work towards improving vision for our patients. And we are trying to put together a system where we are able to achieve these breakthroughs. And these breakthroughs are then, in a way, continue to support our efforts in both translational and in academic research. And as those of you who have followed our research over the last 2 decades, you know that through the efforts of Professor Balu in the 2000 to 2010, we built a very strong team, the systems and the culture of research in the organization, and very strong collaborations. And in the next decade, we focused on building our reputation, building resources internally, externally, and also diversifying into all the different areas that we are involved in. And I think in the next decade, we will focus on influencing and impacting practice patterns and I think a little bit more of advocacy and influencing in that aspect over the next decade that we are now stepping in. So thank you so much and for the opportunity to talk to all of you. And it's absolutely wonderful to see so many of my ex-colleagues, friends, mentors, and seniors in this alumni meeting. So thank you so much for making me a part of it.
Hey, thanks, Simon, for cutting it short and keeping it crisp, and for the update on whatever's been happening in our on the research front. Over to you, Praveen, to introduce the next.
Yeah, thanks, Merle, and thanks, Sayan. And would like to invite the next very interesting session that we have to be moderated by Dr. GC. Would like Dr. GC to moderate the next session, which is again going to be populated by 4 very interesting persons who have taken different paths as well, and each have an interesting story to share. Dr. GC, all yours.
Thank you, Praveen. We have 2 cornea alumni, 1 retina and 1 glaucoma spread all over the country. The only international one claims that is more Desi and international. So we will have them share their journey, the lessons learned, and their experiences. We'll start with Thomas first and go on with the 2 cornea guys, Ajay and Umang, and then finally my friend Prashant. All of them are my friends. Over to you, Thomas.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Dr. GC, and good evening, everyone. It's a proud opportunity to be here. Let me first introduce myself to the newcomers. I've been a long-term retina fellow in 2000-2001 in LVPEI Institute. Even before joining the institute, I have been a faculty at Little Flower Hospital, Angamali, that is in Kerala. And incidentally, I joined Little Flower Hospital, Angamali on the 20th of February, 1996. So today I have completed 25 years in Little Flower. And I joined as a fellow, and ever since I've been back at Little Flower as a retina consultant. So going straight into this, Praveen had in fact asked me to give a life story and speak for 5 minutes, a life experience. I thought I'll squeeze in 3 stories in 5 minutes, 3 of which gave me 3 different lessons right from our fellowship days, some of which I have shared with some of my colleagues, some of which I've talked at some of the alumni meetings, but let me quickly go through that. First one was about a patient whom I saw as a fellow. It was an endophthalmitis, PL negative, which came to the OPD about 5 o'clock in the evening. The consultant was with me. I was with the consultant. In fact, the consultant asked me to operate that, and I operated. Next day, Dr. Das saw the patient, and he gave me a big firing for operating a no PL endophthalmitis. In fact, he gave me a lesson. He told me, you have cheated yourself, you have cheated the patient, and you are trying to cheat God by operating a no PL endophthalmitis. In fact, I was down that day, but then thinking over the years, I realized that whenever you are to operate a patient or whenever you are treating a patient, always look at the prospects, look at the prognosis, and also look at the pocket of the patient, whether they can afford that before you jump into operating with your pure science. That was the first lesson which I learned. The second one, I'm not going by the chronological order. Second one is something which happened after I joined back as a consultant after my fellowship. Again, I was doing a focal laser for a patient. The patient was on the laser machine, and I was trying to laser the patient. The patient was so uncooperative. He was moving his eyes this side and that side. First, I told the patient very politely, please look straight. Please don't move your eyes. I have to laser you. He was not listening to me. He kept on moving his eyes. Every time I tried to start the laser, He kept on moving. Then I told him, next time you're going to move your eyes, I'm going to send you away. Again, he moved. Then I asked the patient, sir, I cannot laser you, please go away. And he just got up and walked away, walked out of the hospital. That was something terrible for me. In fact, the same day evening, I called up my dad and said, I've done something bad. And he told me, you have been very rude to the patient. That was the first and last time I did that to any patient. I learned that whatever be the composure of the patient, you have to keep your cool and treat the patient. That was the second lesson. The third one I was learning, again, that was from Dr. GC. This story I have told a couple of times. Once it so happened that Professor Sohen Singh Here was in the institute. He was talking at a research meeting that was on Sunday, and he was talking in Patodia. I just walked into Patodia, thought that the next day's journal club discussion is going to happen there. And I saw one gentleman standing on the dais and speaking. I didn't know who he was, but the first slide was shown there. Sohen Singh Here, Professor Sohen Singh Here was talking on anterior ischemic optic neuropathy. Patodia was almost full. I could manage a seat. I just got into one of the seats. I listened to the talk, and immediately after the talk was over, I came out. Next day, Dr. GC was there in the class. He was a bit angry. He said, when a luminary like Dr. Sohen Singh Here was talking here, none of my fellows were here. And that is unpardonable. And everyone have to give an explanation in writing why they were not there. And he gave a piece of paper to all of us. And everyone started writing an explanation. And I wrote that I was there for the meeting. And Professor Sohen Singh Here talked on anterior ischemic optic neuropathy and just one or two sentences about that. And Dr. GC was collecting all these papers, and he looked at my paper and asked me, were you there? I said, yes, sir. Okay, you go, and everyone go. I didn't know why he let everyone away. But then over the years, it took me so many years to understand why he let everyone go without a punishment. Now I realize that it was a parental instinct on the part of Dr. GC that if there is a chance to leave your fellow or your ward unpunished, then you leave him unpunished. That lesson I learned over the years. You make him or her aware that he has committed a grave mistake, and at the same time, look at an opportunity to leave him unpunished. That is the parental instinct, or that is the professorial instinct that I learned from Dr. GC. So these are the 3 lessons, life lessons I learned during my fellowship and after my fellowship, and I believe I have kept to my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. In the interest of time, I wanted to have some discussions, but I will postpone it for now. We'll move on to Ajay now.
Am I audible?
Yes, Ajay. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, one and all. I start with a big namaskaram to all my teachers and mentors and gurus. The topic which was given, and it was aptly named as the road less traveled. So let us begin with something which I want to share. Everybody is talking about their journey as far as the professional excellence in ophthalmology is concerned. I rather would take a different route and would just praise you about what I'm doing apart from practicing ophthalmology that to cornea. And a small portion of my talk would be basically how I build up my practice after doing cornea fellowship. So after finishing the cornea fellowship, I wanted to come back to my area because this was a highly underserved area. Around 300 or 400 square kilometers, no cornea specialist was practicing. So that was basic idea of coming back to my hometown. And the aim was to deliver the patient care services and whatever little I learned in cornea at the institute on a larger scale. The template was already ready, so I just had to apply. So if you split it into patient care, then research, academics, teaching, and participation in the community, all these angles I had to look for. I had a very small space, around 600 square foot, where I started my clinic. and I still run my clinic in that same area. But to cater to the other the things which I just mentioned, I also joined one of the medical colleges where I run a cornea clinic once a week, so that I am actively involved in teaching as well as patient care and also in academics. And I also go to one of the remote areas in the state of Maharashtra, that is the Adivasi area, once every quarter, where we do screening for corneal diseases as well as do corneal surgeries as well. Another area where I contributed was development of eye bank in one of the medical colleges. So I was last year, that was the medical colleges. Of all the medical colleges in the state of Maharashtra, we could manage the highest number of transplants in our medical college. So the core issues or core values which we learned, I was fortunate enough to replicate them at my level. So the aim was to provide total cornea solutions under one roof, but if it is not possible under one roof, we can't stop here. You can always do it on a cooperative basis. So when it came to cornea, the infections being the largest load in our practice, and the other issues being the specialty contact lenses and refractive surgery. So I tied up with different groups of people and started catering to the society as far as the cornea care was concerned. And I was fortunate enough that the alma mater, LVPEI, also approved my center as a collaborative center, so that the delivery of patient care was very easy for me, so as to the patient don't have to all the time go back to the institute. All the follow-up care would be taken care of at my center. So this is as far as what I did differently. Rather than being in pure private practice and practicing only cataract surgery and refractive surgery, I decided to stick to cornea and left doing all other procedures like glaucoma, squint, and pediatrics. So largely my practice today is around 80% of the patient load is pure cornea. But ophthalmology is not the whole life. It's a part of my life. There are other interests as well. The first and foremost is reading and writing. So I developed my own library at the clinic, which is basically dedicated to the ophthalmology books and journals, and my personal diary, library at home. Secondly, I am into writing, poetry and prose. Happy to share with all that two of my books are underway for publication. Largely, I write in my mother tongue, that is Marathi. A few writings are basically in Hindi and English. Would share this in this platform sometime in future. The third thing, large part of my time is now being utilized for my involvement in endurance sport. Basically, I'm into endurance sport, largely cycling. This is long distance cycling. Those of you who are in cycling, they must be knowing about Audax. Audax is an institution which is based in Paris, called as Audax International, and we have an India wing called as Audax India. So this is an institute which conducts the Breways. Breways is a long distance cycling event where you have to finish 200, 300, 400, 600 kilometers in stipulated time. So once you do that in a calendar year, you are known as a super randonneur. So this is called as randonneuring. So in last 4 years, I have been doing, so far I have finished around 26 breways, and the largest distance which I could cover is around 600 kilometers in around 36 to 37 hours flat. I could manage this in on 6 times so far. So large part of my this activity goes into this. Every day, everyday ride is around 30 to 40 kilometers in the morning, which takes me around 1.5 to 2 hours. And I really love that. So this keeps me fit, and I'm also into sports management. Since I'm into cycling in a big way, I also pick up some good talent where somebody cannot afford a high-end bike, and so I started donating one bike every year to one of the young kids who are basically into cycling racing. Apart from that, some interest in hitchhiking and biking as well. And I must say that as a student, I always had a dream of owning a high-end road bike. and Royal Enfield Bullet, which I own a 500cc, and we do go on bike rides as well. And third thing which I'm spending at least once a month is philanthropy. So basically, I donate liberally to institutes which are basically working for education of children which are underprivileged in the areas of technical education related to science, sports, and music. So music is another hobby. I picked up that basically it runs in my family. My mother being exponent of classical, Hindustani classical music. So of late, I have also started devoting time to music. And last year, we conducted a program in Pune, and the funds which we could raise went to a charity which works for education of underprivileged children. So apart from ophthalmology, these are lot many other activities which are keeping me busy. I work Monday to Friday, 10 to 5. Saturday, Sunday, I don't work. Basically, this time is utilized for my other activities. And I think this is from my side. Thank you, Praveen, for asking me to share my story so far, the road less traveled. So basically, when I came to Nagpur, people said that it is not possible to do private practice with academics. So I just wanted to prove that wrong. That it is not impossible. You still can be very much connected with the academics and continue your honing your skills and updating your knowledge, and you still can be in private practice. So that's a basic crux of what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Ajay, that was really inspiring for everyone. There are a lot of messages that are coming.
Yeah.
Looks like you have the magic of finding more than 7 days and in a week and 24 hours in a day, achieving so much. Great.
I remember Dr. T.P. Das once, actually, he said to me that Napoleon Bonaparte and Albert Einstein, all of them had only 24 hours in a day. They never complained that we did not have time. So thanks, Dr. Das, for that.
Great, great. So Umang, all yours. We are waiting for you.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. And it's great to be here with my teachers and my friends. 1987 is when I joined MBBS, and quite frankly, all of us joined with some sense of idealism to serve and do something. It may sound cliched, but probably there's some spark inside. But by the end of it, I, for one, was pretty disillusioned with my whole education. However, the inspiration was there in LVP when I joined, and that really changed many things. I think it was life-changing, as everyone has been speaking today, gave a sense of purpose and what impact we can have with our lives. So when I finished, in those days, there were only basically you could start a private practice or join government. Private practice, of course, was possible for me. My grandfather was an ophthalmologist. I had a 50-year-old practice waiting to join. However, somewhere there was the spark to do something more. Quite frankly, I can't really say the road is not traveled. I've been on the same road for 23 years. I joined the Shroff Hospital, which was a pretty old institution in Delhi. Had a glorious past with Mahatma Gandhi and Rajendra Prasad as patients with the endorsements. However, had fallen to, for nearly 25 years, it had degenerated. And there wasn't anything interesting happening there. Just when I was finishing, the Aisha group basically, and Ajay, it has a link to the Royal Enfield, our institution. And Stephen Roy, whom some of you would know, who was at LVP later, definitely had a role to play, helped me align my, at that time, I can't say my vision was very clear, but definitely it tickled my values. And since then, we've grown. We see about 2 lakh patients annually, do 40,000 surgeries. We work with a lot of international NGOs. With Dr. Rao's model, the pyramidal model, we have the tertiary hospital and 6 surgical centers and 36 vision centers. We started the eye bank in 2005, and today it's one of the largest eye banks in the country. And of course, Dr. TPT's friend, he was very fortunate to bring him to the hospital, and I was fortunate to do his surgery. We even did a stint in Botswana and did some 6,000 surgeries there. All this, of course, has been possible with my gurus who've inspired and encouraged, and like all our alumni has been saying, the role that LV Prasad and the teachers play has actually been the most important. And I think I'm repeating the whole evening, we've been talking about our values that LVP has given to us. I think important thing was not to compromise with standards. And it's important to establish your core competence and have good outcomes, not to treat any ulcer without scraping, for example. Even the small procedures like tissue adhesives is what I didn't have tissue for nearly 5 years after my fellowship. But these small procedures, doing them well, I think established myself in the city, in Delhi. And it was the details of documentation. And I think what LVP really teaches you is discipline. I think these are the important values that take you far. As I'm growing, I can see my role changing, but I still like to do my surgery. And I see it like this. I think there are enough people who can perform surgery as well or better. But to me, I continue seeing patients. I think it's more for my own self. Surgery is like meditation. You feel you're in control, you zone out other things, and you feel at peace and with satisfaction. How my role seems to be changing to being an administrator, involve myself in public health, and also looking after the human resource. The small stint I had during my fellowship at Mudhol, I think my friend Ashok Nanda, who was posted there, had a family emergency, and I was asked to cover him for 15 days. I think had a big impact on how the community can be accessed and how we can reach out to people. I think that those 15 days gave you insight as to how to reach out to people and the importance of the methodology of reaching out to rural populations. We set up 4 secondary hospitals, which are each doing between 5,000 to 7,000 surgeries annually. These are dotted with vision centers. And this was my very first patient we operated in central UP, who just very sweetly sat on a cycle and went home after surgery. Also putting systems and creating human resource. We developed a school where in the last 5 years, we have trained 500 young women as eye care paramedics. A lot of them come from very poor families, and it's been amazing to see how this program changes their lives, and we are able to provide livelihood to them. Of course, working with all the doctors, keeping them engaged, it's quite an experience, and of course, I'm still learning. We have been doing fellowships and training doctors, and I think by doing that, there's a ripple effect of what work we are doing. We do this short-term phaco training. In the last 5 years, we've trained 500 doctors, and more than 90,000 surgeries have been performed by them. That just shows the impact of education and the lives we've touched. And of course, LV Prasad, what we've talking today and the whole alumni is grateful for that. We've recently started a consortium with some of the community-based hospitals, which are not so much into research. We feel a lot of these institutions have a lot of material that can be useful for research. Amongst there over millions of patients being seen. And for the last 2 years, we started this small thing, and we've recently published a paper on microphthalmos and coloboma with 600 patients. And so there is a lot of power in working together. So that's my small bit. And I would like to thank LV Prasad for sowing the seeds and for all the wonderful things that everybody has been doing. Thank you so much.
Super, Umang. Very inspiring. We'll move on. Prashant, all yours now.
Okay, am I audible now? Am I clear?
Yeah, Prashant, go ahead. Slideshow mode.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Right. So yeah, boy, isn't LVP demanding? Because after trying to run all over the world in different countries, be it Tokyo, London, Dubai, Chicago, New York, I was asked to speak on my journey. I was asked to share my journey on the road less traveled. So that was interesting. But thank you for having me here. Let's start by just saying stay safe. These are difficult times, and thank you very much, Dr. Chauhan, for that wonderful lecture. I started my path back in 99, 2000. That's when I did my glaucoma fellowship and returned to Dubai in 2001. I started off working in a multi-specialty private hospital with subspecialty ophthalmology care. This was, I was lucky and fortunate to be in a center like that, but it's because besides being the youngest consultant there, I was just happy to be in a place where I could actually just do glaucoma work, because that's where my passion lay. And from 2009, I moved out and started my own independent center, again focused on glaucoma care. So like all of us, there have been loads of accolades of appreciation along the way, which we hear of, and probably brickbats, which others hear of. But I also had a running path, which I started back in 2015, which started off with, thanks to Facebook. It was more about my dear friend Gaurav talking about another dear friend Raj, who all of us know here. And he was recovering after his surgery. I generally tend to talk a lot, like my friends and colleagues would know. And I happily said, why don't you guys come to Dubai for a run? And they said, yes, you've got to run along. And so that's where my running journey started. I was really never an athlete in school or university. I used to dabble in some form of sport or the other, be it squash or badminton or football, but never really someone on the podium. And at that time, when I signed up, doing a 2.5K used to be a big deal. I remember telling my family that, wow, I could do a 3K today. And these days, when I'm tired, lazy, I don't feel like going for a run, I can pretty much run a 21K without batting an eyelid so much. So yeah, time to change. It feels good. From the running side, back in 2019, I completed the Boston Marathon. That got me the 6-star medal after having finished the other 5 world majors. At that time, I was the 30th Indian to receive the Abbott 6-star medal, 14 months after I started that journey. And I think to date, it is still the fastest that an Indian has actually completed that course. Not the fastest to run the marathon, but to finish all 6 in 14 months, I think is still the quickest. I haven't checked off late, but at least when I did it, I was. And yeah, targeting triathlons from here on, and whatever Ajay was saying was just incredible. I think we all travel our own path, and on both these journeys, both of them are easily dwarfed with the achievements of the gurus and the giant, at LVP and outside, who do phenomenal work academically, in research, in patient care numbers, and of course in economies of scale, like Umang just spoke. Same way, running saga can easily be humbled by the likes of Kipchoge and other superhumans out there. But for me, this was my path. This was the road I travel as an individual. So that will always be unique to me. And all of us have the same unique road which we take. I just wanted to say a few things to the next gen as a way of giving back. So I just want to put in 4 things, saying that first of all, stay in the present, take one step at a time. In running parlance, we say right foot in front of the left. And I wish I could say that I had looked at myself 20 years hence saying that this is what I'm going to do. But really, I just lived in that moment, taking it step by step in a methodical, in a manner that I was taught to be the proper method. I think it's very important to stay connected with meaningful friends. Gaurav, of course, is a very dear buddy. He's an ophthalmologist, pediatric ophthalmologist in Delhi. These other bunch of people, Kishore is Mulpuri. He's actually a shining knight in shining armor in orthopedics. He's a pediatric orthopedician. He's the first Indian to be the president. He's presently the president of the Canadian Orthopedic Society, and he's actually the first Indian to hold that post. He is an Indian. He's not taken a Canadian passport. And all the others, there are some professors out there, people who had professors of ENT, leading medical colleges, and essentially doing well in their walks of life. But these friends are actually very useful to us to keep ourselves grounded in doing what we do. Another concept is stick to core value and value systems. Much has been said about it. Raj's eyes in this picture talk about, making sure that when food's on the table, nothing else should be messed around. All and everyone else's eyes here talk about the same value systems. We need to stay updated because things change, and as things change, if you're fortunate enough to be in an institute like LVP, updation happens automatically. If you're not, then we got to take that extra step to make sure we stay updated and maintain relationships, whether it's family, that's my mom and my daughter running a marathon, or it's your running buddies, whether it's friends you make in ophthalmology doing other things. There's a whole bunch of LVPites out here, Jagru, Ekta, a couple of ophthalmologists they got up, of course, and normal human beings, bankers and people who are not necessarily ophthalmologists, but guess what? They all live a life, and it's very important, I feel, to be a part of their life. Thank you so much.
I think I'll just say that it was an amazing potpourri of life's experiences and lessons from the four stalwarts from the current generation, probably relatively senior old ophthalmologists. So, so with those thoughts, probably we are quite behind time. We'll move on. I'll hand it over back to Praveen.
Thanks, Dr. GC, and thanks, Thomas, Umang, Prashant, and Ajay. Amazing inspiration, not just about the fact that you've done so well for yourselves, but also the fact that you create time to pursue other interests for yourselves in your careers as well. Thank you so much. There is a slight change in the schedule that we will have to bring about. I think because we are running about 45 minutes late, so we will be dropping the talks about education at LVP by Avinash. I'm sorry, Avinash. And we'll be dropping the talk about innovation and technology at LVP by Mr. Ramam. Sorry, Mr. Ramam again. For those of you who would be interested to know more, we'll be happy to send over the slide deck so that you can actually look at those. And we'll probably move on to the next section of alumni who are here to actually take us through a slightly different journey. What we've heard about is alumni who passed out in the 1999, late 90s and early part of 2000s. But now you're going to hear from a very different group of newly inducted alumni who've just become part of the alumni of LVP. And these are all individuals equally fantastic, equally great potential in life who will be sharing their stories from now. So first, we'll be showing short video clips of each of these recently passed out alumni. We have 5 of them. And then we will have a very short discussion with Dr. Prashant Garg moderating the session. So Srinivas, can we start playing the videos, please?
Namaste, everyone. It's my pleasure to speak about my experience in this meeting. I was very lucky to apply and be selected as a fellow in LVPEI. My cornea fellowship was full of experience and knowledge. The intensity and scope of the information I got to learn in LVPI, the number of patients I worked with, the varieties of surgeries I performed were far superior to those I could get in any other place. As you all know, I faced some difficulties while trying to return to my country, and I'm deeply grateful to the LVPI community, which helped me and my family with the organization of the trip, with logistics, accommodation, and many other things. I felt myself as a part of a big and united family, which in fact LVPI appears to be. In Baku, Azerbaijan, I had to compare my experience, apply my knowledge and practice. Um, uh, the workload which I used to have in LVPI helped me to easily adapt to the emergency situation when my country had to fight a war and I had to deal with complicated cases and perform surgeries on injured military personnel. Um, I can proudly say that at the moment and in forthcoming future, I will be one of the unique specialists who will help to treat different corneal diseases here in Azerbaijan. Therefore, less people will have to seek for medical care abroad. Moreover, I'm committed to the purpose of raising new specialists with deeper knowledge in this field. I'm very happy to have all of you in my life, and I want to thank all of you. Hope to meet you one day in any part of the world.
We'll have the next video, Srinivas. We will be introducing each of these amazing young individuals immediately after the videos, and then you'll get to know them better.
Good evening and greetings. I will be talking about my experiences at LVPI in this short presentation, and this will be more of a visual treat. To start with, I did my schooling, graduation, and post graduation from New Delhi. I had the chance to serve and study in the apex institute of our country. But then, why I came to LVPI? The answer is simple. I had a dream to excel and learn from the best. People had all those skeptical looks. You won't survive the language, the food, etc. But finally, I took the path less traveled and reached this temple of knowledge. To my surprise, it was too starry for me initially, and not to forget the good weather and fresh air of Hyderabad. Life here was full of colors. The experiences of my secondary center posting were equally rich, and I made new friends and also improved my macro and telephoto shots. LVPI taught me how to manage my time, and a key role was played by this section of the GPR building and the people who took care of it. All my time there, this elixir is what kept me going. The LVPI values we learned here are somewhat magical. Even if you don't want to, you tend to absorb them somehow. The important ones, which I understood, was patient first, and which my mentor always reinforced into me. And not immediately or conspicuously, I felt myself growing and striving towards the LVPI standards, both surgically and clinically. The value of togetherness, which I thought I had, I felt it on a different level across all my teachers, friends, colleagues, and my theatre and OPD staff. And finally, I gained a large family who took great care of me. For my colleagues currently in fellowship, I have three words of wisdom. First, keep your balance. Keep your balance between your professional and personal life. Work hard but in silence because you will be always appreciated. And last, keep that dream alive because it's the one thing that keeps you going. Thank you all for giving me a platform to share my views.
Thank you. We'll go on to the next one. That was Mayank Jain. Next, we have Dr. Oshin Bansal. Thank you. Srinivas will go on to the next video, which is by Dr. Shashwanti.
Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. PG and Dr. PVK for giving me this opportunity. I remember how nervous I was during DMV counseling. I wanted LVPEI so badly, and it was my first and only choice. At that time, I didn't really have a solid reason as to why I even wanted LVPEI. The idea of moving out of home for the first time, learning new languages, as well as meeting new people, excited me just as much as studying in a world-reputed institution. Little did I know how much LVPEI would actually give me. Waking up at 7 a.m. in the morning for Patodia was a tough task, but looking back now, I see how much those classes benefited me and how I learned the importance of punctuality through them. I was told that if you can present in Patodia, you can do it anywhere. The presentations I made in Patodia made my confidence blossom and increased my ability to present in international and national conferences with ease. I think Patodia even now is the scariest stage for me. I do not think I've learned to talk any slower, but definitely not dying of stage fright anymore. As residents, you are constantly bombarded with theory classes, bedside clinics, which seemed like a lot then. But thinking about those classes now, I feel really lucky that so much attention was paid to us and so many consultants took time off their work to come and teach us. The outside impression is that LVPI is fellow oriented and not DNB oriented, but being a DNB resident from here, I couldn't disagree more. When I started my cataract surgery training, I was initially so frustrated. I remember all my first SSCS cases were premature entries. Those back cuts in Blumenthal technique were leaking all the time. But thanks to the amazing training here, from struggling in the beginning, it went to doing 25 cases per day in the periphery posting without any complications. I think the surgical training for residency is unparalleled, not just the number of cataract surgeries that you get to do as a resident, but also the right technique of doing it. I was allowed to learn from my own mistakes, and at the end of residency, I was able to operate on difficult cases that I never imagined I could do. A special mention to the 6-month peripheral posting in Nellore. Gaura and I used to crib about going away for 6 months. We really didn't want to leave Car campus. But I know Gaura would also agree with me when I say that those 6 months made us independent and confident in managing difficult cases and doing extremely complicated surgeries. We also got that rare experience of how to manage and lead a secondary center, being only one of the 2 doctors there. I was additionally given amazing opportunities, not just to publish research, but to present and represent LVPI in national and international conferences. I was always kept on my toes here and I was constantly inspired. I feel I came out of LVPI as a competent clinician and surgeon, and I think a very, very few residencies in India give such well-rounded training, and for that I'm really grateful to have been part of this residency. It's the residency with the most to offer in my opinion, and each and every person here influenced me in so many ways. LVPI quickly became like second home to me, and the friends I've made here are more like family now. I made some wonderful memories, not just with the co-residents and the fellows, but also with the consultants. I had recently visited Hyderabad and it was so good to see everyone again. It felt like I never left. Every day here, I grew not only as an ophthalmologist, but also as a person. And I really want to thank LVPI for not just letting me stop at my best, but always striving to do better.
Thank you, Shashwanti. And then we'll move on to our last video by Dr. Shushma.
Thank you, Dr. Prashant and Dr. Praveen, for considering me for this. It is very difficult to summarize your entire eventful journey of fellowship in 3 minutes, but I've tried my best with the help of a PowerPoint presentation. As a true LVP person, I'm ready with a prepared PPT. I'll try to keep it as light as possible. So this was me, super excited when I got to know that I was selected, not aware of what's coming ahead of me. And this was me on my first day of fellowship, and this was me for most of my initial days in this place, completely lost. This was basically because I was from a very small place where I did my residency in, and I was never exposed to such a big setup where everybody else is working in 4th gear and I'm trying to drive in 1st gear and struggling. So as expected, most of my days was spent getting yellings and scoldings in my initial postings. And my confidence level at the same time was going down and down, and it was no longer an exciting place for me. And as expected, my fellow evaluation went particularly bad, and I was told that your mentor will be Dr. Jay Chablani and you have to go and meet him. So this slide is apt for his role in my life, where I think he realized that I needed some serious mentoring and needed some different environment to improve in, and that is when he directed me to Dr. Divya Balakrishnan. And I think one word I can tell for her is that I got sculptured very well, both in hands of Dr. Divya and Dr. Jay. But I felt that I was jinxed when they both left in middle of my fellowship. But I was back to my inspiration. I need not tell who it is, and I cannot describe any better way than this picture about our relationship. It is Dr. Subhadra. I've spent like half of my fellowship now with her, and all of us will get influenced by people, I think, where we get influenced by our parents, by our teachers, by role models, and I got inspired when I saw her working in clinics where she forgets everything. She enjoys each and every minute in the clinic, and that is where, when I was interacting with her, I learned that what I like and what is the thing which gives me the peace. And down 10 years down now, if I think of doing anything meaningful, I decided that it should be in pediatric retina. So I think I should thank her for helping me in finding out what I liked. So in a nutshell, my journey from starting from taking half an hour to do a conjunctival suturing to the day where I could manage stage 5 ROPs. It was like an overwhelming journey with a lots of learning. But still, I believe it was just a sheer privilege with not even S of struggle. There are people with real problems and having kids, having families, having responsibilities, and still trying to make a difference and trying to achieve something, coming to places like this. And if at all I have to give a message, I don't think I'm good enough to give any message, but my suggestion for those people who are playing this role of a fellow, I think we have all played this role of fellow, but somehow we try to undervalue it. All of us have gone through certain degree of struggles, but somehow we undervalue it, thinking that it's just that is how a fellowship is. So my message is this line, which I really believe in. This is from Rocky. That you will be hit, you will be laughed at, you will be mocked, you will be ignored, you will be demotivated. These are the different kinds of hits you get. But what is the important thing is you should take it and you should just get up every time and not to give up. And trust me, world is still made up of good people, and good things happen in a higher ratio compared to the bad things. So you will end up in good hands, and until then, you have to hold on, keep taking hits, and getting up, and not give up. So this is my message for all those people who are playing that role of fellow. Thank you.
Thanks to all the 5 amazing young individuals who just finished their fellowship and residency. I'd like to invite now Dr. Prashant Garg to actually moderate the next short session that we have to bring all of these 5 people together and pick their brains a little more.
Thanks, Praveen, and thanks, V5, Kuraman, Sashwanti, Mayank, Oshin, and Shushma. What a wonderful creation all of you have, very clearly visible in your videos. So my first question will be to Mayank. Mayank has partly introduced himself about his education. He just finished his pediatric ophthalmology fellowship and then has moved on to become pediatric ophthalmology faculty in Arvind Eye Care System in Madurai. So Mayank, what aspect of LVPEI experience you find most valuable at this stage of your professional life?
Thank you, Dr. PG. Well, to be short, I would say that the quality of work we do, I learned that how to deliver the best to our patients, how to excel in what we do. And this is something which I learned, that how hectic might be the OPD maybe, or the OR, but you should be always do your best to your patients and to yourselves.
Great, thanks, Mayank. The second question will be to Oshin. Oshin finished oculoplasty fellowship and now she is in Gwalior. Oshin, what you find missing in the experience that haunts you now?
Thank you, Dr. PG. I don't think there is anything missing from the fellowship which would haunt me as such. I would have loved to have more time with my mentors because, you know, the learning is always incomplete and it always goes on. So that's the only point I would say, that I would have been more greedy to have more time with them. But other than that, nothing missing as such.
Mm-hmm. Not anything that you feel could have added more value to the
Well, I would say, on a serious note, I would say that probably, we could work a little bit more on physical rejuvenation. We kind of being, medical professionals always try to ignore ourselves. So that probably could be inculcated along with the presentation skills that we learn here, the academics and the research. That one part we could also inculcate is the physical rejuvenation part.
Your mentors in oculoplasty department have done a good job because that's the philosophy they believe in.
But Prashant
had
marathon for the next group of fellows.
So my next question will be to Kuraman. She is a cornea fellow and currently is in Azerbaijan, and I think you all must have realized that from her video. Kuraman has the privilege of being the second only cornea surgeon in that country. So she has both privilege as well as the responsibility. Kuraman, if you are online, what were the most exciting moments of your stay in LVPEI? I still do not. Yeah, you can unmute and then.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Prashant. I'm happy to see you all. I think everything in the first time is very excited, and the first day when I entered LVPEI building was very exciting for me. When I realized that it's a place where I will be the cornea specialist, and when I first met fellows and my teachers, every OPD with new consultant was very excited, and first maybe the days when I
Unfortunately, we lost the connection. So in the interest of the time, I think we will ask this question once Kuraman joins us back. The question to Shashwanti. Shashwanti did residency or DNB with us, and then now currently she is pursuing her retina fellowship from Shankar Netralaya. Shashwanti, you have your thoughts on LVPEI beyond clinical training. Did you find that LVPEI gave you time to pursue something extra?
I don't know if LVPEI gave me time to pursue anything extra, but I think I did make wonderful friendships here, and we did have time to enjoy those friendships as well. So with my co-residents, as well as my seniors, as well as my fellows, and even some of the consultants, I made like lifelong friendships, and I'm very happy that LVPEI gave me that opportunity to find these kind of friends.
Anything else you want to add?
I think I also, it's part of clinical training, but I also developed a very keen interest in research. And I really want to thank Dr. Sangwan and Dr. Sayan for that. Even though I'm not doing cornea, I think they are the ones who really got me interested in research. And that is definitely, I'm really keen on research because of them. So that's also another part of LVPEI that I really want to thank them for.
Thank you, Shashwanti. The question to Shushma, as you might have known that Shushma finished retina fellowship. She spent 6 months in Liberia providing care to Liberians, and then she spent 6 months until January this year with us as a faculty in the retina service. Sushma, how prepared are you for your next stint in professional and personal life after finishing your tenure in LVPEI?
Well, Dr. Prashant, I am always the one who believes in following what your heart says and preparing your brain well enough to pursue your craziness of your heart. I don't think any age or gender or financial status should come in between that. And I'm always been a person who doesn't listen to people, and it has worked miracles sometimes, and sometimes it is like, oh God, I should have listened to people. But I think I'm fortunate enough to have a few good people who know me, to whom I can go back crying, telling that, oh, I should have listened to you. So I think as long as people like that are there with me, I think I'll keep on pursuing with roads which are less traveled. And as long as as far as my personal life is concerned, I think I have given the job to destiny. I hope it does a good job on that. That's it from my side. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. And if Kuraman is online, I still do not see her. So I think without delaying further, Praveen, I hand over it to you. I would like to once again thank the 5 stars for really giving their insight after finishing their fellowship. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Dr. PG, and thanks for capturing the transition from people who continue to inspire us to people whom we will look forward to being inspired from in the future. So now, next we have one of the most awaited events of tonight, and which is the skit. And we're going to start sharing the skit, but we also have the brains behind the skit, Vaibhav Sethi, and we have Ashish Lal and Neera Agarwal, who are going to present this skit. And they will be live to answer questions about the skit if you want them to. So let's play the video right now. Shrivas.
Good evening, friends. We have made a small attempt to recreate our fellowship days. Hope you will all enjoy it. Let's see what fellowship effect we have.
नहीं नो दरवाजा खोलो दरवाजा खोलो ओपन द डोर
अरे वैभव क्या हुआ वैभव
ओह अच्छा मुझे लगा था मैं फेलोशिप में चला गया वापस एक बुरा सपना आया था
क्या बहुत बुरा सपना था
मैं क्या बताऊं मेरी प्रेजेंटेशन थी पटोडिया की और मैं ही बाहर खड़ा 7:01 हो गए थे अरे भगवान
तुम और तुम्हारा पटोदिया मैं तो बीच में फंस गई हूँ ऐसा क्या हुआ था पटोदिया में जो तुमको अभी तक भयानक सपने आते हैं
मत पूछो मैम क्या बताऊं मैम
See what happened to fellows in Patodia. We have 2 fellows with us who will tell you what happened to them.
हेलो भाई रमन क्या हाल है
मैं बहुत बढ़िया भाई सुना तुम भी दिल्ली से हो कैसी लग रही है फेलोशिप
भाई रमन हमारे से नहीं हो पाएगा
क्यों भाई क्या हो गया
ये फेलोशिप के हो गए मने तो लग गई मनी तो लग गई आज व्हाइट कोट पैंट और टाई पहन के सुबह 7 बजे भाई मैंने सोचा थोड़ी सी रेटिना बैठना सीखूंगा रेटिना तो दूर वहां तो भाई जी हॉरर शो चल रहा है
भाई जी हॉरर शो ऐसा क्या हो गया भाई
मानने नहीं बनना इस हॉरर शो का एक्टर भाई मानने ना हो पाएगा हम तो जा
भाई मैंने सुना है ये एलवीपी की फेलोशिप बहुत बढ़िया है ये तो आदमी तो क्या गधे को भी घिस घिस के घोड़ा बना दे रहे हैं
भाई हम तो अपने दिल्ली के घोड़े हो रहे थे यहाँ तो आके कोई पूछे ही ना बने और सुबह सुबह तैयार होके भाई सुबह 7 बजे से रात के 12 बजे तक भाई यही काम करते रहेंगे क्या
ये बात
तो आप मानोगे नहीं हमारी डॉक्टर नीरा हमारी सीनियर उसकी तो कॉन्फिडेंस की वाट लग गई उससे पूछा भाई कॉन्फिडेंस इंटरवल के हो गए हमने सोचा कुछ रेटिना शेटिना सीखेंगे भाई ये तो कुछ अलग ही लाइन पे चल रही है भाई हमसे ना हो पाएगा
चलो डॉक्टर नीरा से ही पूछते हैं डॉक्टर नीरा के पास भी है अपनी कुछ कहानी बताने के लिए
पहला दिन और रेटिना ओपीडी बोल दिया जाके पेशेंट डायलेट कर दो मैंने भी उठाई केस शीट और लेके चली पेशेंट का नाम SRKV कृष्णमूर्ति अच्छा अरे बाप रे इतना लंबा नाम बुलाना पड़ेगा तो मैं पहुंची लाउंज में वहां आवाज लगाई Mr. S.R.K. Murthy.
Yes, madam.
Yes, sit down. I will put drops for you. Sit down in the lounge. We will call you in half an hour.
Yeah. Have you dilated the patient which I am supposed to see?
Yes, doctor.
Please call.
Mr. S.R.K. Murthy.
I can't see any pupil dilated, Dr. Neera. What have you done?
I put the drops, doctor.
Mr. Murthy, did she put the drops in your eyes?
I have never seen her in my life.
Madam, patient is never wrong. Patient kabhi jhoot nahi bolta. What have you done? Where have you put the drops?
I did put the drops. I don't know what happened.
Hello? Who has put these eye drops in this patient's eye? This patient is a fresh patient. How could you put dilated drops in this eye, madam?
Dr.
I put drops. What is his name?
Is Mr. Krishnamurthy.
S.R.K. Krishnamurthy? Oh, now I know what happened. The other patient's name was S.R.K. Ramamurthy and I dilated S.R.K. Krishnamurthy.
Oh my God, such a horrible fellows. How will I run this institute with these type of fellows coming to the institute?
Hyderabad is such a funny place. People with such long names. 2 patients of same name in the OPD, who would know? Now I am left doing Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna.
Good morning,
Yes, doctor.
Good morning, sir.
I am not a sir. I did not get the knighthood.
Oh, I mean, good morning, Dr. Rao. Please sit. Please have a seat.
What are you doing here?
I am trying to have my breakfast.
Are you trying or are you having a breakfast?
I mean, I am having my breakfast.
What about the patients in the OPD? Who will take care of that?
I have done my workup, sir. And Dr. Honavar will come and see the patient. By the time I thought I'll go and grab some food.
How many hours are you sleeping at night?
I can manage only 6 hours of sleep maximum.
6 hours of sleep? Dr. Raman, you are wasting your time in LVPEI. I will make sure I'll tell Honavar and we will set it right. You must not sleep more than 4 hours a day.
4 hours? Just 4 hours? 8 घंटे सोने वाला आदमी, 10 घंटे सोने वाला आदमी, सिर्फ 4 hours?
और अब देखिए नए फेलो डॉक्टर वैभव के साथ क्या हुआ ओपीडी में. ये था उनका पहला दिन.
I am Dr. Vaibhav Sethi, reporting on LV Prasad Eye Institute duty.
You are a doctor? You don't look like one.
Yes, ma'am. I have all the degrees. Shall I show you?
Is this the way to come to OPD? Look at your hair. Look at your mustache.
Madam, I got my haircut done yesterday only.
No, you can't do the OPD like that. You have to be very trim and proper to do OPD here. Take care of all this, then come tomorrow.
Okay, madam. I will do that. Good morning, madam.
You look fine now. Pick up the case sheets and start working the patients up. Thank you.
Okay, madam. I have done my haircut for next 2 years so that I can focus only on the eyes now.
और इस तरीके से हमारी फेलोशिप खत्म हुई. इसी तरीके से at the end of the day, we would like to say that we are thankful for LVP for making us who we are.
We are so blessed that we have got the opportunity to work in the most premier institute of the world. And we thank Dr. Rao and LVP team for making us what we are. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching us.
I would like to thank LVP because I remember LVP and all these things that have been ingrained in me, the punctuality, how to talk to the patients, how to behave with our colleagues. Everything is all about LVP. I remember LVP every day. Thank you, LVP, for ingraining all these qualities in us. Thank you very much.
East or West? LVP is the
best.
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 wait. मैम मेरा स्पीकर नहीं आ रहा।
हाँ वो नहीं आएगा जो रिकॉर्ड किया उसका नहीं आता।
क्यों रिकॉर्ड करना भाई?
अच्छा एक मिनट।
खुद ही तो सबको बोल रहा है गैलरी में। डॉक्टर राव कौन बन रहा है? तुम बन रहे हो?
हाँ जी।
ठीक है मैडम आप
Yes.
Thanks a lot, Raman, Neera, Ashish, and Vaibhav. I think that is an apt end to the amazing session that we had online today. So officially, that brings us to an end to this virtual alumni meeting. I know that we missed a couple of talks, but I think in the interest of everyone being able to get up at the ordained time tomorrow morning, I think it probably is good to close. But in several ways, I think this meeting has achieved what other meetings probably could not, about getting so many of us together on one platform, at least so we can see each other and hear each other and also know that we are still connected to the mothership. So thank you everyone for your time and thank you for coming back and connecting, and do stay connected, and we will actually ensure that we have more of these gatherings in the future, virtual or physical. And for those of you who would like to stay back, we are having breakout rooms right now. We will have 5 breakout rooms depending on the year that you passed out: 1990 to 95, 96 to 2000, 2000 to 2005, 2005 to 2010, and 2011 onwards. So all of you who are from those years can actually get together and spend some more time with each other. So thank you again, and till next time, I'm going to ask Nazimul Hussain to come and say the concluding remarks. Nazimul, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there, but okay. Thank you all. It's been really refreshing to see all of you and the memories which has been gone back years. And so after going through all the lectures, I felt that our alumni has matured in the sense like all of us has grown. And I do see the young budding fellows which are coming out as a profession doctors, the way of thinking and the way to contribute is tremendous. And my colleagues and friends who have achieved so much in their life, I feel really proud, and thanks especially to Praveen to bring 200 plus alumni together for the first time. And I think this is the way to bring in all motivated, even though it's virtual, and hopefully in the future, we will be able to come together, all 200 plus alumni. And thank you, Praveen, and thanks all of you. And what more I can say? I'm grateful, and God bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Sangwan.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Everyone.
It's great having you here.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
Everybody.
The breakout rooms are live. If you want to join one of the breakout rooms, you're welcome to do so.
It was great seeing you all. Thanks so much.
Thank you,
Thank-
Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Dr. Rao.
Continue to inspire us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
How to go to breakout room?
How to go to the breakout room?
We all had a great time. Thank
Yes,
you.
Tab on the bottom that says breakout rooms. Just click on that, and then you can join the room of your choice.
Not showing that.
Yeah, so it's showing it, but you can't
I'm
join.
not seeing that tab.
There are 4 squares right next to the poll, next to record. It says breakout
Right.
room. Yes.
No, not. I don't have it on mine.
One room looks like.
Go
Maybe we
right to
have
the
to
bottom.
move them
You
together.
have the separate ones.
Yes.
And my name is not there.
No, you have to click on which room you want to join, and you will join that room.
Okay. Where is the room?
It's probably not happening. So I'm going to the breakout room, but it's just not letting me enter.
No, you need to go right to the
And
bottom.
all breakout rooms will close in 56 seconds, is what it says.
Yeah.
We only have 50 seconds to join, okay?
Oh God.
Otherwise, we're going to make this the breakout room.
Okay. Click in 96 to 2000. How to click? The heck?
Technologically
Some people
challenged.
Hey, you don't know where to click. I can see.
No, I see the room. I just can't get in.
Yeah, if you click, it collapses. If you click again, it expands.
Exactly.
No,
Maybe there's a limit to.
All right. Which one should we assign you to? We can assign you to rooms as well.
96 2000.
Can you assign me to the 96 2000?
Yeah, and me
because
too.
I can't see it.
Yeah, I think I'll go for 96 2000 because we just move. That's the people we know.
Yeah.
Hey, why not we meet the young people?
That's true too.
You are still young. Why are you thinking yourself to be old?
No, because
Nazi is old.
Nazi is young, यार. उसको दौड़ने ले जाएंगे एक बार.
I sent Vinay into one of the rooms. I'm sending 96 2000 Nazimoli. Gone.
PG.
Parul goes to 2001 2005. Bade goes to 2001 2005. Dr. Das can pick anyone that he wants.
Thank you, sir. I hope everybody enjoyed the skit.
Oh, yes, it was very nice. Thank you.